What is everybody? Welcome back to the Transparency. Good evening. Title here, Idaho4. Thanks, Whitcomb. Thanks, Chris. Dylan and Gooch interview, completely unredacted. Yeah, sure. What is up? Did you guys get your books? Some of you guys get your books? There's your books. Did you guys get your books? Check your books. Again, it is broken plea. Next week, we're going to have Chris back in studio. And remember, we're doing a straight call-in show. And Chris is going to give away at least 3 signed copies. And the way that you can get a signed copy of the broken plea is to be one of the following 3, which, let's see. Best question, best insight, and best connection of fact. Stuff like that. Okay. Best of the best of the best. And you know what? I'm gonna totally try to get him and convince him to do shittiest question and thought. All right, guys. We're jumping right into it. Now, Dylan Mortensen interviewed by Gooch and Blaker. He flies first to Nevada on the 16th, meets with Bethany, and then on the 17th, meets with Dylan. Then on the 18th, okay, right after that Gooch interview, there will be a girl who used to live in the house at 1122 King Road that was interviewed, and her name is Sophia Whitehead. And what you want to do is you want to take your book, and you want to turn to page 170. 170. Okay. And there we go. Now, see where it says like stuff like this? I'm gonna try to help you out. That's what we're going to try to help out here. But first, right there, look at number 100. It says, this is again, Dylan and Gooch. When asked what occurred after she went to Bethany's room, see that sentence, blah, blah, blah. 101. She advised a friend of theirs, Sophia, and Sophia's mother are planning a memorial event, and that has helped her emotionally. She advised Bethany is crying a lot over this, but she has not been crying. Okay. Dylan has not been crying. Now, a couple things here. On Sunday night, they sleep in a hotel together. Then, new information right here. Bethany and Dylan travel together to Boise. Okay, so Bethany, Dylan traveled together after being in the hotel on Sunday night. Then they, on Monday, traveled together to Boise. And it is there that Bethany's family flies from Nevada to Boise to then get Bethany and then flies Bethany, back to Nevada. So so they had, Sunday in that hotel. Then Monday. And then whenever she would have left, I don't know if Bethany ends up staying, that Monday night. And I think it was that way, but I definitely know that Bethany traveled with Dylan to Boise. And then her parents flew in and then flew her back. Okay. Now, Sophia Whitehead lives in Boise. Sophia Whitehead was supposed to be staying. She had the upstairs bedroom that was next to Maddie's. That's the one that Kaylee took over. So during Dylan's interview, when she says the statement, this is what led them. I mean, hopefully they were eventually going to go talk to Sophia Whitehead. But since Dylan had mentioned that in this sentence that Sophia and Sophia's mother are planning a memorial event, and that's what helped her emotionally, She advised that Bethany is crying a lot over this, but she has not been crying. Dylan is telling her interviewers that she's not been crying. And then you see right after this where that's where the redaction comes in. Well, this is when they have the conversation about Bethany's like life. Like, what has Bethany gone through in her life? Bethany's parents were divorced. And so there was obviously stuff that comes along with a divorce situation when you're a child. But they asked her other things. Okay. If there was anything else. Now, in this book, Dylan says, I'm going to back up here. We all remember this. So Dylan's making statements about the fact that if there is no DNA, right? If you guys don't get any DNA, it's because we just cleaned the house. And then Gooch is like, when did you clean the house? Oh, well, for parents' weekend. Again, almost like telling on herself, like that she cleaned up. Then she was advised that, hey, no, there was DNA. Oh, thank God. Let's see. Where do I want to go? Where was it? Okay. We're going to go back over here. Now, remember, we've gone over this before. The first thing that Dylan does when she gets home is she goes up to Kaylee's room to go let Murphy out. Okay. Is that something that she always has done? Does Murphy need to be let out? Is that like allowed? Think about it. Like, that's your dog, right? Not Dylan's dog. And someone's coming home. So like, I would think that you would have probably had like a conversation about that at some point with your roommates about your dog, who is like the dog, like the house dog, you know what I mean? But first thing that she says, I came home and I went upstairs and I go into Kaylee's room, the lights are on, and I let Murphy out. Okay. First thing that she does. So you almost ask yourself, was it like second nature? Because that's what she always does. But she says that she was not certain about Xana and Ethan because she does not know when they came home. Okay. Ethan and Xana, I have no idea when they came home. She knows Kaylee and Maddie were home when she went to bed. And Bethany, and from what she saw, Xana lying on the floor, but she was not certain about whether Ethan was home. Okay. Think about this. If all of this happened at the time that the state's alleging, right? She has no idea when Ethan got home. So that's basically saying that she never saw him and she never heard him. So that would mean that Ethan's voice never got loud during somebody attacking him. Because there's going to be I would think, a big difference between a guy who's screaming in their voice and the girls, right? Where was it? The one. Okay. I'm just showing you how Dylan has basically foreshadowed everything in this case. Okay, right here. She explained because of these things that happened a couple weeks ago. She said also 2 or 3 weeks ago, she's like, we go and get Ethan's golf clubs to protect themselves when they searched the house. So the reason that her hands would be all over that bag, the reason that her hands could be all over other golf clubs, well, because we've grabbed those before. She is literally hitting on everything that is really interesting about the crime scene. Where's she at? In our book, aka what we get back from MPD Moscow, right here, Dylan is offering her DNA, but before that, it says that Dylan advised that recently Kaylee started talking to Mason Barstow, like that name redacted. Okay. There's a lot of these in there. Okay. Now we can go over here. I went and I pulled Sophia Whitehead's interview. So Dylan's talked to, and then immediately the next day, go talk to this girl, Sophia Whitehead, because literally they said Bethany's crying and Dylan's not. Okay. So here I just picked out the part that's most important, which is they asked Sophia, hey, did you hear about anything? And this would be from Dylan. She says, blank told blanks. Mortensen told Whitehead she woke up around 4 a.m. to music playing. She hoped Kaylee would turn it off soon. Turn off the music. Now, do you guys remember when Ashley Banfield came out and she was like, her source said that somebody was playing music or they heard music. And so they opened up the door and they said, will you shut that fucking music off? Will you shut that fucking music off? Remember? Do you guys remember this? You guys want me to pull up that Ashley Banfield breaking news? Hey, my sources tell me that one of the roommates opens up the door and screams out, shut that fucking music off. Right? Okay. So Dylan was telling people that. And basically the source is whoever Dylan was telling that story to. Ashley Banfield either talked to them or those people then told somebody that Ashley Banfield was talking to. Okay. And it could also be a police officer. But then you'd want to pull all of the interviews that only ever talk about that's being able to be ascertained from the interview. And you could probably figure out who Banfield's sources were or source. Anyways, going back over here, Whitehead said that she could hear Kaylee and their dog, Murphy, playing upstairs. Remember, she says no, they were playing like on the main level. Shortly after that, Mortensen told Whitehead the music turned off. The music turned off, and heard Kaylee say, "I think someone's here." Okay, and Mortensen told Whitehead that she heard someone run upstairs and run back downstairs. She said that she peeked out, of her room. And now, do you remember back in the beginning, this is way back, I said, you guys, there's a couple of things that you would just never do. Okay. Why would you ever need to peek out of anything when there is not a perceived threat? People are at that house all the time. Hey, there's someone here. You just open up the door and you're just like looking. What do you mean you're like peeking out? Like you're peeking out? Why would you be peeking out? You would never peek out of anything. Okay? Like, just, that's not what you would do. Now, if you heard a fight and you want to snoop, okay, you're peeking or you're trying to like eavesdrop, but there's somebody here, you're just opening up your door and it's just like, okay, like who's here? But hey, peeked out. Her words, Dylan's words. Then where'd she go? Right here. Blank opened up her door. She said that she peeked out of her room and did not see anything. She peeks out of her room and did not see anything, but could vaguely hear someone in the bathroom. Okay. Now, the best part about this is we know that nobody was in that bathroom, right? On the second floor. There's no blood in there. That's not where the cleanup even happened. So like, to vaguely hear somebody in the bathroom, right? Now think about this. She says that she could hear Kaylee and Murphy playing upstairs. And then she thought that she could heard somebody briefly in the bathroom. See how she's saying it like that? So it's almost like she's talking about when she would be in like if she's recalling this from being in Bethany's room. She recalls, you know, the dog, if she's saying upstairs, Kaylee and Maddie, or Kaylee and the dog. And then when she's also talking about this bathroom and that she could hear somebody in the bathroom, well, look at the bathroom on the first floor. Definitely somebody was in that bathroom. There was nothing in there. That was used for a cleanup. Now, again, this is where she's telling on herself, in my opinion, of when I say telling on herself, that this is not the truth. And it's either because she's lying or she doesn't know it and she's, for whatever reason, deciding to make stuff up. And you guys all know those type of people that are inserters, that are pathological liars. We have friends that they're just always like, you're just like, dude, just shut up. Like, and remember Maisie's saying that on the day, telling Dylan to, you know, shut the fuck up. So anyways, so she's recalling this, and then she says she called blank and blank, meaning she called Bethany, and Bethany told her to come down to her room. All right. So she's still on this kick that she called Bethany. All right. But Bethany called her. After a few minutes, Mortensen told her that she opened her bedroom door and saw a person standing out there, and they made eye contact. Mortensen said that said he then walked out the sliding glass door. And now the day of, remember, she does not see him go out the sliding glass door because she does not know, because she runs back in her room. She closes the door and locks it. Remember? Now, again, this is Sophia Whitehead relaying what Dylan told her. Sophia Whitehead lives in Boise. So Sergeant Hoxie asked if Mortensen had described this person to her. Whitehead told her, Mortensen told her that she felt hazy and didn't remember many details. Mortensen told her she thought the person was about her height and had his face and forehead covered, and that she ran to Bethany's room, or that Mortensen said she ran to what appears to be, her room, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? We don't got to guess anymore. Because we just go here to... Okay. Dylan explained that she had an assignment due in her psychology course 2:15, so she posted the assignment at approximately 10:12 p.m. She believes she then left the house at approximately 10:30. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, think about this. when people went and took that nap from 5 to 8, all right, if you have this paper to finish or whatever the fuck the assignment was, wouldn't you do that so that you could then go with all of your friends at the same time? You know, think about a 19-year-old. Like, why would she want to go by herself to a party? So, hey, I'm going to get this done so I can go to this party with you guys, right? So here it would, I'm curious if they ever went and got and saw that she actually turned this in at that time versus, hey, everybody's leaving. She knows that Kaylee's not going. And that would be alone time with Kaylee just to hang out. Okay. What it almost seems like is that Dylan purposely had an excuse not to leave with everybody else to go to the Sigma Chi party. When normally somebody would be like, oh, I don't want to go by myself. So, like, hey, wait for me, or like, let's go together. That's normally how people would handle that. Not Dylan. She's totally fine with staying back and not going when everybody else goes. Now, according to Dylan, when Dylan left the house, Kaylee was still there with the one friend. Now, I'm going to go back over here and show you right here. Me and Mark B, after I did my lab last night, we were up trying to track what vehicle Dylan could have possibly got a sober driver, that Sobro, to take her and Lakeland home that night. You guys, there was no vehicle that went to 1122 King. Okay, at any point around when she sang. From this 115 to 130. Now there is one that we think could be a potential drop off. It would take 7 seconds to get out of the car because the car is coming back this way. So you have 7 seconds to do this. But it does not drop her off at 1122. This goes right in front of like where Jack D's house would be at the end of the cul-de-sac area. Okay. So here, this whole getting a sober driver, the Sobro driver, you guys watch the video. There's nobody that could be dropping anybody off at that King house between 1:15 and 1:30. There's just nobody there. There's nobody driving there. There's nobody dropping anybody off there. So maybe they end up walking and they thought that they drove. Okay. Okay. Now at approximately 20 minutes later, Bethany returned home. The three of them laid down and continued to watch Vampire Diaries. She believes Lake may have walked home, and then she advised that she does not know what time Bethany and Lakeland actually left because when she went to bed, she had already gone to bed and does not know when Lake may have left or when Bethany went to bed. Okay. Do you understand how absolutely ridiculous this is? She was laying on the couch. She has a friend over, right? They're all there. She's laying on the couch. She has her little blanket. She's not in her bed. Okay. But this is her version of events, that they were watching Vampire Diaries and that she went to bed. Then at approximately 2 or 2:30, she just wakes up because Maddie and Kaylee arrived home. And they had mac and cheese, which Dylan explained they normally got. Now, this is where I want you to pay attention. Kaylee's room is absolutely pristine. When Kaylee got home, not only did she undress, but her shit is like, if it's dirty, it's in the dirty pile. You know, her shit's just not sprawled everywhere. Okay. I went back over the crime scene photos last night, and I'll pull them up right here. And I was like, why is this fork here? It's always bothered me. The fork that is on Kaylee's end by her bed. If Kaylee went downstairs, right, why wouldn't she have grabbed that fork and go downstairs? Because that's who Kaylee is. Okay? Kaylee is that type of a person. Kaylee is not going to leave that fork and then put shit on top of it. It's a dirty fork. And if she goes downstairs, okay? So if she goes downstairs, she's going to grab that fork. Okay? She's not going to leave that fork. All right? So you have to understand, just go with me here. I want to know where that fork is to this, like right now, this day, today. I want to know where that fork is. I want to know if that fork was ever taken into evidence. I want to know if it was the mac and cheese from what Kaylee and Maddie were eating, or if it was from something else. Because I want to know, because it makes no sense to me that her room is in. I mean, you would have thought that she'd literally just called a cleaning lady to come there. Her room is immaculate. When you would leave that bedroom to go downstairs, because now I want you to think about this, between 2:26, please think about this, between 2:26 or 2:15, whenever Kaylee would have went downstairs, okay, and for her to be up and just dancing with the dog and all this stuff until 4, you're going to sit here and tell me that Kaylee, between 2:15 and 4 o'clock in the morning before she went, was never back up there, never to like grab that fork and be like, you would not want that dirty ass fork laying there. That's just not who she is. And so I'm like, well, it's because she never had a chance to grab that fork. You understand? She never had a chance to take that fork and do anything with it. Remember, okay, remember this, that Dylan goes upstairs into Kaylee's room. She says to Gooch, the light was on, and I went in there and I let Murphy out, to bring Murphy down. But she went into Kaylee's room. She would have had access to open up a slider and unlock it. Okay. Now, where are you going with this? Well, because Dylan tells us every little detail. Okay. Dylan tells us that, let's go where she says, right here. Well, she kind of gives it away. You guys decide though. So when you zoom in, approximately 2 or 2:30, we get right here though. All the girls talked about getting grub truck food. Why would all the girls be talking about that? Maddie and Kaylee just had it. So she did not believe that Xana and Ethan were home because their bedroom door was open and she did not see them. Fuck seeing them. You didn't hear them. You didn't hear them, see them, smell them. And I say that in a funny way, smell them. People have perfumes. Like, come on. I would know if my roommate was home or not. Just saying. Right? So she did not believe Xana and Ethan were home because the bedroom door was open and she did not see them. And she discussed whether she may have been mistaken about this fact. And then she said she was certain she saw their door was open and they were not home. She went to bed, which she advised was after texting Eric, the Uber driver. Yep, she just passes out like immediately, right? Mm-hmm. Dylan looked at her phone to determine what time she had texted Eric, blah, blah, blah. Dylan admitted that she was somewhat confused about whether she was... Great, we know all that. Right here. This Snap stuff. Okay. She explained that she uses Snapchat as well as her cell phone to communicate with her friends. She advised if there's a lack of texted communications on her phone, this is where Gooch... And this is what I was talking about with Chris. I said, hey, this is how that went down is Blaker was playing dumb and Gooch was like, I'm not going to let you do that to this girl, basically. And we're just going to tell her that we have her phone records. And we know that there's a huge gap. She was texting and all of a sudden she stops texting. Okay. And she goes to Snapchat. And so she's like, well, I will just transition to using Snap and app for her communications method. She advised her log in information with Snapchat is redacted and her password is redacted. But she denied knowing her roommates' passwords to their cell phones. Okay. She was the only person that was asked that. Was Bethany asked that? Okay. So Dylan, you know that Eric has a child and he's in his 30s. And guess what? Eric thinks you're a man. Okay. Remember, Eric Gower tried to downplay that he got that text or whatever, that was from some dude named Dylan. He thought Dylan was a dude. But he really didn't think that. Okay? Sorry. He just didn't. So, okay. Right here. She explained that she previously had a lot of dreams where she had been kidnapped in her dreams. And she further explained these types of dreams started in high school. And she knew they were dreams. And she would let those things happen in her dreams because she realized they were dreams. Okay. I got to be honest with you guys. We have all been there. When you have certain dreams, you just don't let them happen. You want to wake yourself up out of them. Okay. Especially when like you're falling. Okay. Like you wake yourself out of those dreams when someone's chasing you. You're trying to get up out of those dreams. You aren't like, oh my God, yes, this is amazing. But here, because Dylan realizes that it's a dream in her dream, she lets the dream continue. Well, those are called nightmares. Okay, those aren't called dreams. All right, those are nightmares. All right, just for the record here. And I've never heard of anybody that just lets these dreams happen. Again, that was completely redacted. That portion there. But I'm going somewhere with this. Don't worry. She advised that she does not suffer, okay, from anxiety and denied prior life trauma. She's denying when they asked her, like she's like, yeah, no, I don't have. I'm perfectly fine. I have nothing in my past. Okay. Well, the Idaho State Police and Mossville Police Department would go back into the crime scene and to gather some more evidence that they wanted. And on specifically, they went in on 11/19. So this is on the 17th. Okay. Then 11/19. They went into the east bedroom to obtain Dylan's diary, located on the desk of floor 2, east bedroom. And so on November 19th, when they went back in there, I wanted to specifically show you what they went back in this room for. Okay. They walked in there and they're like, listen, this is what we're going to go and get. Okay. We go there on November 19th, Joe Lake, in this report, they don't say go and see Joe Lake's stuff. They should be talking about the fact that they're taking all these pictures of Dylan's room and all of the what's on the walls. And you guys remember, we're like, why is everything being blacked out? Like, what the fuck is going on here? And everybody was like, oh, because it's bushy eyebrows. It was bushy eyebrows. Was it just because it was bushy eyebrows, or was there more? There was more. So nothing gets said about the 19th, the 20th. They return at 8:16 a.m. and then they leave at about 8:58 a.m. They're done. Okay. And so this quick trip that they need to go in there, where are they going to go? Well, we're going to go get a power cord that's located on the first floor. Okay. Then we're going to go and get another power cord that was in the upper shelf of the closet of bedroom 3, or on the 3rd floor. Black colored iPhone located in a drawer. This SD card, this handwritten note inside a plastic clear tote of upper shelf and closet of floor, east bedroom. You see that? And this diary. Okay. And that would be of Dylan. Now, do you remember when Ann Taylor was putting in, this is pretty early on, she was interested in getting and seeking out people's basically health information. And we were all trying to figure out whose it was because it was all sealed. I'm curious if that's what it was. I'm curious if she was seeing if she could get information from one of the 2 surviving roommates, if not both. Okay. Now, okay. All of these girls denied drinking any alcohol after they came home. There is no reports of anybody partying after they got home. Okay. Okay. All right. Now we're all going to ask ourselves a question. People were going back and forth with me saying, Lana, when you would go into, if I go to a different time zone when I'm traveling, if I was to then, because I'm trying to explain this the best way that I can, with my iPhone, it's 1000% has happened. So what the fuck would Blaker and Gooch be doing if your phone, when you go to Boise, okay, if something happened in Moscow at 4:00 in the morning, all right, it's 5:00 in Boise at the time that would have happened. People in Boise. Those are the same. 5:00 and 4:00 are the same exact time. Okay. But so in order for you, when you're talking and saying things, you would say 5:00 Boise time. It has to move, you guys. Otherwise, it would make absolutely no sense. Okay. So I need you to understand right here, when this is happening, if you're a detective, this should confuse the living fuck out of you, right? Because you should be wondering, what is she talking about that she's looking at and she sees something that's at 5 or at 4? Okay. Wouldn't you have asked, hey, can I see what you're looking at? Can I see, like, what do you mean that's saying 5? Yes, the phones change automatically. Okay. So you're in Boise's time zone. So at this interview on the what was it? On the 17th, okay? If she's in Boise, when you look at your phone to tell somebody about a story, you're in that time zone. And so therefore all of your stuff is going to then represent like that. Okay? And so when you say it like that, you have to say, well, yeah, it was at 5 Boise time. Hey, this happened at 5:00. The person that's in Boise, that's what time it did happen. Okay? So I'm trying to have everybody, but Gooch should have been like, let me see what you're looking at. Okay? Because they should just handled this. All right? Handled it. Because obviously there is no way that Dylan Mortensen is looking at her fucking phone because she was allowed to have it on. So she's looking at it. You guys, it's saying that on the phone to her. But the detective should make sure of what it's saying. Right? This is why when they download phones, just so you guys all understand this, when you're downloading a phone, it does everything in UTC time so that this doesn't happen. Okay? Just so we're clear. Now moving on. I saw people talking about that in the comment section, and I just wanted to clear up that for you guys. Now, whoops. All right. Let's go back to this. So let's get this straight. You want me to believe that Miss Responsible Kaylee, whose room looks like it does, Maddie's room looks like it does, like all needy tight together, right? You want me to believe that Kaylee is the only person up by herself, okay? And she's just like, hot damn, touch your toes, let's play some Little John, let's just dance around, let me fucking with my dog here, woo, woo. Fire burning on the dance floor. Like, just Kaylee by herself in the middle of the room dancing around. That's what Dylan is basically wanting us to believe, that Kaylee is playing fucking Little John and Little Wayne and having an East Side crunk party, okay? And meanwhile, her fork is a mess. Okay. That's at 4 a.m. And then she's like, turn down for what? And then just shuts down the everything, cuts the music. And she's like, it's time to go to bed. And then Dylan's like, it's time for her to go to bed because Kaylee's going to bed. Remember that story? But now it's that she was sleeping, right? And she just wakes up to Kaylee having a fucking dance party by herself in the living room with her dog. But yet she's trying to what? Supposedly like, but just an hour ago, she was blowing up Jack Decor. Maddie's blowing up Jack Decor. And then whoop, their phones. So then she takes her phone, which you would need to play the music out of. Her phone, though, it's dead. It's upstairs. The phone's dead, which would play the music, right? And the phone's. So an hour then would go by, and Kaylee just decides to get up out and start singing karaoke herself. Okay? I just want you to like understand her cell phone here. That her phone just doesn't make another command, doesn't doing anything. She doesn't text anybody, she doesn't call anybody. And she is just says, you know what? I'm gonna put my phone here and I'm gonna go downstairs and I'm gonna go in the middle level and I'm just gonna drop it like it's hot for an hour by myself. Fuck, you know what? If I had some rollerblades, I'd put some rollerblades on and just rollerblade around. I play some Bad Bunny and shit. That's what we're supposed to like. I don't like. That's great, but oh, it's time for bed. Gotta go. Someone's here. Boom. How do you do that without a cell phone? You have to play music from your cell phone so that you could like communicate with your device, your Bluetooth, your big old speaker. You would need your phone to do all that shit. Yeah. But that's just, I wanted you to get like really this is what it would have been like. Just Kaylee by herself, in the middle of the, in the middle of the beer pong table by herself. Well, I could tell you that Xana and Ethan would have woken up, right? But don't you think that she would have wanted like to try to get them like, hey, come on, Dylan, like dance with me, or like go and try to get Ethan and Xana to wake up because I want to dance. I want to dance with my dog, and this is my last weekend here, bitches. Come on. But no phone. And so she does this though at 4 or close to 4 or right before 4. This is happening, but her phone isn't making any of this happen because she would need it to play the music because that's how it is. Or she just takes what she's playing something off the television. What the fuck? What? This is the stupidest shit I've ever heard. And technology would prove that none of this happened. So why aren't we just going and getting like that information that says, hey, show me where Kaylee's phone connected to the Bluetooth of any device so that she could fucking dance and listen to fucking, I don't even know. Okay. It didn't happen. But here's Dylan in her head. She's thinking it's happening. Kaylee, shut that shit off. But there's no music being played. Alexa, Turn it down. It's just ridiculous. Okay. So I'm glad that we all see that now. Do you guys like my moves? You guys like my moves? Okay. Now that we all know that that's just ridiculous. But the point of it that also was is that you need your cell phone to do that. Haley didn't have her cell phone. I mean, she did, but she wasn't using it. And then she just after she's blowing somebody up, then her phone she decides like, I'm not going to text anybody else the rest of the night. And I'm not gonna like, come on. Okay. All right. Now. All right, so I went back and got this one. Take a look here. Okay, there are apartments around the same Mackay Lodge. Okay, blank went to apartment, possibly did it. Where we go here? Right here. Another friend of blank took a photo of Xana in the apartment playing guitar and posted it to her Snapchat story around 2 a.m. Okay. Blank took a screenshot of the post and Blank recalled later in the interview also seeing Xana's other roommate blank at the blank house. Now, the last time that this person spoke to Xana at the Simacai house was, or wherever at the blank house, was approximately 12:45 when everyone was leaving. Now, this had happened in the Delphi case. This happened in the Delphi case. This can happen anywhere, anytime. If you go to your Snapchat story or go to your Snapchat and you want to upload to your story, just because you upload a picture to your Snapchat story at 2:00, that does not mean that that's the time that that picture was taken. Okay. That is the time that you took a picture and you uploaded it to Snapchat. And so therefore it's like, here, this is at 2, that they uploaded a picture. Now, this is why I want everyone to pay attention. Right here, the party was done at 1. Okay. The party was done at 1. And so this person says, they basically reinforcing what I'm saying here is that just because, hey, I saw that Snapchat story, here it was, I took a screenshot of it. This was posted on Snapchat at 2. That does not mean that it was taken though at 2, right? Because take a look. Right here, we're tracking people down. She says another friend of hers, whoever this person was, took a photo of Xana in the apartment playing the guitar, okay? Playing the guitar, and posted it to her Snapchat story around 2 a.m. Who has a guitar? I mean, this is like so easy to figure out whose guitar that was. Here's the picture of Xana. She's playing someone's guitar, right? Whose room was this? Okay, whose guitar? Or, I mean, I don't know. Talk to the girl and download her phone to see what time the actual photo was taken, right? Because you're trying to like track people. but we just don't have to do anything like that. Why would we? But just because it was uploaded does not mean that it was at that time. You have to go look at when the picture was actually taken. More help with that would be when they look at, here we go. Let's see. Tomorrow night is Jack Showalter night. And I'm going to show you why they went to Jack Showalter again. But there's more here. Hold on one second. Right here. When you continue reading that, though, it says that when she ran into them, they were heading home, and that was at 12:45. So if you look right here, the last time this person spoke to Xana at the Sigma Chi house was approximately 12:45 a.m. when everyone was leaving. Xana and Ethan walked away, and Blank, this girl, believed they went straight right home and did not go anywhere else. Okay. So now we go to this was one of the earliest interviews. This girl right here, supplemental 20. Okay, please show me where supplemental 20 can be found with this girl saying, so 137, 138, 142, 145. Take a look at this. Ethan receives a notification from Erica, you're getting cheated on, at 12:43. So when she's in the presence of this girl, okay, think about this. So now I am tracking down and I'm going to call the girl from the report 20 because she's saying at 12:45 she saw Ethan and Xana together, okay, walking away. And do you understand that during that time frame, Ethan is getting a text message that's saying, and it's notification that you're getting cheated on. And a notification, I believe that's going to be a Snapchat because that's what they call it when you get like a notification that you have like a message like that. You would never say you got a text, like you would just say you got a text message but the reason they're, so I just think that this is interesting. Okay. So is this 12:20? Xana, a text from Xana to Pistol Pete, you good? Don't you think somebody would have asked Pete what that text was about? We'll find out, right? Second. 20. Okay. There are so many FBI interviews missing. All right. Connor Chestnut. He was interviewed. Well, let's see. There was Connor that was interviewed. All right. Hold on, we're gonna come right back to that 1 second. Okay. Right here, this is what the police determined that Dylan did in fact call for this Sobro driver, wherever the fuck it is, right here. You guys, this just didn't happen. There's no way. Why would you ever tell your driver to drop you down away from your house so that you have to walk way far away and when somebody has to pee so bad like Lakeland did? Okay? Like there is no vehicle that goes up and drives to their address between 1:15 and 1:30. Okay? Now right here. Is this at 1:16? Is this at 12:16? Xana calls Ethan, not answered. Because it's the same. They have another one right here. See? 12:16. Xana calls Ethan unanswered. Ethan misses, and that's how it just shows up in his phone. Misses a call from Lil Noodle. Remember that? Okay. So this girl from this report, I would think would be pretty important to talk to because during the time that she's talking to them and sees them, Ethan is getting a notification on his cell phone that says you're getting cheated on. Okay? Now we're going to come back over to Connor Chestnut. Somebody called him in as a tip as well, I believe, for the record. And okay. Down here. Let's take a look. He was previously interviewed during Thanksgiving break, November 18th, by the FBI in Boise, Idaho. And that would be O'Neill. Okay. O'Neill has different people that are CIs. Okay. O'Neill is a Boise. I'm curious where he's located, this O'Neill guy. And I believe that he is located. Well, we'll see. I'm going to double check on that. But that's where Dylan's from. Okay. And so he says, they say, hey, we're going to be following up. So he's like, I was already talked to by the FBI on the 18th. Xana was his Greek little. Okay. Now, right here. He and Kaylee started talking about a month prior to the homicide. She would come back with him and stay at the fraternity. Okay. They talked on Saturday at the pregame party where Kaylee apologized to him and wanted to go to the game with him, but he had already plans to go to the sorority formal that evening. Right here. Now he claims Kaylee texted him that night and he ignored it. Kaylee was pretty drunk on Saturday. How would you know if Kaylee was pretty drunk on Saturday if you weren't around Kaylee? You understand? When was Connor Chestnut around Kaylee on Saturday? Anybody know that? The texts were through Snapchat. They mainly use Snap. They will create a large 40-person groups on Snapchat to communicate. Now, Jack Showalter is still adult and lives by himself on blank. He was out of the picture on Saturday because of being at the formal. He usually knows where the guys are going to be and where they are comfortable going. His frat is comfortable going to Xana's house for a party. He is not aware of everybody's relationships with the victims. If there was someone who was not allowed to Xana's house, he would know. Maddie and Jake were pretty normal with each other. Okay, how does it hooking up with it? He doesn't know. But he does know this. Ready? Dylan Mortensen is dating Quinn from Boise. Okay. How does he know that? For guys to know this, I personally believe that says Dylan Mortensen right there. Okay. Because he was asking about the roommates. I would not know that. Unless I know you. In college, Quinn Kelly has never even been around. Ooh, something. Ooh, yay. Okay. But remember, Connor Chestnut is from Boise. Hoodie guy, Boise. Okay, these are Boise people. Dylan, Boise. They all went to the same high school. Now, blank and blank from the frat house had gotten with blank. He feels pretty terrible about what happened. What? Blank blank was the last blank of the fraternity. Blank was visiting the weekend of the homicide and was staying at blank. Blank is a cabin at the end of blank blank. On November 13th, between 11 and 12, Blank got a hold of him and told him something had happened at Xana's house and to do a head count. And he explained what a head count was, okay? Now, Blank is known as a night owl. They don't usually see him until about noon. My guess is Showalter. Blank has popped up on the university radar a couple of times because of Blank. Blank got into a fight at a corner club one night. Blank just recently, approximately 3 or 4 weeks ago, got into a fight at Blank Formal. All of them were at the corner club and nobody saw the altercation. The university is still looking into the fight at Blank Formal event. He was gone on the weekend of the formal. It looks like Blank was in the wrong place at the wrong time and got caught in the middle of the altercation. He recommended to the university that Blank, and I was like, wait a second, so this isn't Connor Chestnut? And this would be Mason. Ready? It looks like he was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Now they're waiting to see if they're going to be suspended or not, okay? Then Blank and Blank were involved in the incident. They're knocking on death's door, okay? Now, the frat house generally has a door code, blah, blah, blah. The door code needs to change more, blah, 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 all that shit. His other little sister, blank, hosted the party on Friday at the blank. Ready? On the 13th, they woke up. Oh, wait, here. Sorry. He offered up his DNA and everything like that. He gave his phone as well. So on the 13th, they woke up, did the head count, and tried to get a hold of their friends. He checked on everyone. He called blank and checked to see if he was okay. He and blank went to get food at McDonald's and checked on the guys at blank. While he was getting food with blank was doing all right. They talked back and forth about getting a hold of Xana, speculating that maybe she was talking to the police. They tried to stay positive. At 3 or 4, they got an update from blank that 4 people were dead. By Monday, almost everybody had gone home. He was talking to blank that day and was into some Snapchats with others about what was going on. Blank and blank are 2 from the house he hangs out with the most. This is a first name and last name, but it seems to me stayed over with him on Saturday night. Blank was in his room with him all night. Blank is a blank. Now, we need to talk about this. Blankety blank. The reason this piqued my interest again is because of what we're getting ready for tomorrow, which is the Jack Showalter number 2. Okay. Number 2. And so then I go to this lovely 31 here. And this all started with these people believe, for whatever reason, from my understanding, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, who is this kid and who is he saying that stayed with him? This is what sends everybody in a tiz whiz. This interview, and however this is being interpreted, send everybody with the Idaho State Police and, I mean, thinking that people were lying. This interview sent people like in a fucking like don't even know what, but let's go back here. I'm gonna make this bigger. Oopsies. Well, that's what you would think, that it would be Showalter and Chestnut, right? But hang tight. I'm gonna pull up. Okay. You ready? Here we go. This is why this is what they were doing. Do you see this white A and B here, like this silver bearing Idaho license plate, blah, blah, registered, blah, blah. This white bearing Idaho license plate, blah, 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 blah. Okay. This is when they went and did, at approximately 5:43, detective observed an individual believed to be blank leave the residence in the silver blank, took multiple routes in a random manner. The routes ultimately took surveillance units in multiple circles around the Boise area. Okay. So I need you guys to all hear me out. Just truly hear me out. Friends go driving together to go get like high in their cars and hotbox it and shit like that all the time. It's just like, I don't know why people do it, right? I've never fucking done it, but people do it. Right? So here you have they honed in on this kid because of, I believe, his vehicles. I don't know what car he had, but I believe it was a white small car. Okay. Anyways, so this is the surveillance that they did, and I believe that it was Chestnut. And so here, do you guys see this? Multiple circles around the Boise area. Multiple circles around the Boise area. What did that white vehicle do that night? Multiple circles around the area, right? Just driving around. Now, at approximately 6:32 p.m., detective observes blank return to his house on blank drive. At approximately 8, observes an individual believed to be blank leave the residence. Surveillance units followed blank to a blank gas station located at blank in Boise. Idaho State Police Detective observed what appeared to be blank go into the gas station. At approximately 8:23, blank left the gas station and drove to a residence near blank street in Boise and parked on the street. Blank did not get out of the vehicle. Okay. Blank did not get out of the vehicle. Ready? So at between 44, 45, 408 to 420, someone just chilling in a vehicle. Did not appear to get out of the vehicle. At approximately 8:30, observed an individual get into the vehicle with blank and leave together. Okay, so picking somebody up. I'm waiting and I'm picking somebody up. And then at approximately 8:36, blank and his passenger arrived back at the same gas station on blank. Sergeant D. Cortez observed blank and the passenger exit the vehicle and go into the gas station. At approximately 8:41 p.m., blank and his passenger left the blank. At approximately 8:46 p.m., surveillance units followed blank to an apartment complex near the intersection of blank. All occupants of the vehicle got out and went into the complex. This would mean, I'm telling you, that would mean more than 2 people, because you would just say like that person and the driver and the passenger. So what do you mean all the occupants? Like driver and passenger, I mean, fine. 2 people, so they get out of the vehicle together. Awesome. We're surveying this person. They're fucking surveying this person. Okay? So They get out of the vehicle and went in the complex. At 9:30, so they were in the complex for 45 minutes. At 9:30, surveillance ended. Why? Why? Then on December 4th, they do it again. But here we're going to start at 3:44. And they observed a vehicle believed to be blank leave with his mom in the blank. Blank surveillance units followed them to the blank located at blank in Boise, Idaho. Idaho State Police detective followed blank inside and attempted to positively identify him. Detective Hopkins identified someone who looked like blank, but later was identified to be blank's brother blank. At approximately 4:17 p.m., blank and his mother arrived back at the house. At approximately 4:58, Idaho State Police observed an individual appearing to be and resemble blank leave the residence in the silver vehicle. Detectives followed the vehicle to the blank gas station located at blank in Boise and watched blank pump gas into the car. Detectives followed blank towards the Boise St. Luke's. Blank eventually turned up Warm Springs, where detectives eventually lost sight of him. Detective Sergeant Hawks eventually found him. What time? And observed he had a passenger with him. What? At approximately 5:28 p.m., blank arrived at blank where Sergeant Cortez observed a male get into the vehicle. At approximately 5:31 p.m., the vehicle left and arrived at the parking lot behind blank located at blank in Boise. Sergeant Cortez observed everyone exit the vehicle and they went inside the gas station. What? At approximately 5:44 p.m., everybody got back into the vehicle and left the gas station. At approximately 5:48, detectives followed blank to a house located at blank in Boise, where all occupants went inside. At approximately 7:30 p.m., surveillance ended. Now, we all know that this is Connor Chestnut. If you did not know, now you know, okay? The moral of the story here is that what that vehicle, okay, was doing on this night that they were surveying it, go and like look at what was happening on campus with these vehicles that just drive in circles and drive for no fucking reason. Okay? They meet up with each other. People can be like doing these in tandem, but the question is do you think that they knew that the cops were watching them? Do you think that they knew that the cops were watching him? How do you lose somebody, by the way? Like, how do you do that? You're a cop, for heaven's sakes. The question should be is what did you get out of that? What did you get out of that? What the fuck did you get out of that? You just want to see that he's in that car, so you could say that he drives X vehicle and so and so and so and so. They were all together driving around. Solid, solid shit. Okay. Um. Go back to this. There are several pictures taken, and I want to know if at 2:02, if this Bethany right here, Bethany takes several pictures with Murphy in Kaylee's bed. I want to know if the fork is in the if the fork is there, if the fork is in any picture. Can you see the fork in the picture? Can we get this? And what about that fork? Okay, that fork, 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 fork. Why do these kids think that November 18th was Thanksgiving break? That wasn't Thanksgiving break. I don't know what these kids don't understand. Anyways, really weird. Really weird. Um, where's the here you go. Okay, let's talk about this. Oh yes, got it. Okay. Thank you there, New Orleans lady. We're gonna go ahead and do it. We got it. We got it. I want to take a look at this really quick. Right here. This person said that she believed the FBI had contacted the individuals at the apartment already. Yep. But on December 5th, where is it? Right here. She stated many of the students use Snapchat and have active Snap maps. However, she did not see Xana or Ethan on Snap maps from that night. Okay. Wouldn't you have asked Dylan and Bethany? Like they were sending Snap and like no one was answering them, and then like they were looking. Um, uh, wouldn't you ask them? Hey, did they share their locations? Did they like were they on Snap Maps so you could see where they're at? Wouldn't you ask them that? Shit is about to hit the fan. Look at the article just released by the Idaho Statesman. Well, I'm gonna show you guys this stuff about the stuff I have for the golf clubs. Let's see what the Idaho Statesman has to say. Idaho Statesman. Which one is it? New or is this the old one? If it's not from today, I don't care about something from a couple days ago. Ann Taylor just put out a statement. I think I told you guys things were gonna get a little cray cray, right? We'll pull it up. Let's see. New Orleans lady, can you send me the link? Well, you guys know that she spoke this past weekend, right? Three hours ago. Colbert's defense makes its first statements. Okay. Oh, I don't know if I can see it. Lawyer for convicted killer Brian Kober have taken aim at a forensic scientist hired to help in their client's defense at his Idaho murder trial, asserting in their first statement since he pleaded guilty last summer that the expert witness violated, I told you, a standing confidentiality agreement. You guys wondered? Where's Cyree? Okay. Yeah. Why does Ansel have all of her experts gagged? No one's gagged. If you sign a depending on what type of NDA you sign, it's not depending on how you signed your NDA. That's just how it is. So let's see though. Let me pull up a different one. Hold on one second. The non-disclosure agreement that she did separately with each and every single expert. Things are going to get wild. All Brian has to do is claim ineffective assistance of counsel. Hold on one second, guys. I have to close out. I have like 79 tabs open. There we go. Oops. Did it drop off? Okay, we should be good. Perfect. Now we can go. Okay. Ann Taylor, joined by public defender Elisa. Yeah, that's right. Alleged that recent public statements by defense expert Brent Turvey, including earlier this month to the Idaho Statesman, falls outside of the ethical and legal norms that are applied to experts in criminal cases. Among a host of experts, Turvey was hired by Brian Culber's attorneys late into their handling of the closing of the closely watched case. It was late, solely to provide an opinion about the crime scene, nothing else. Okay, yeah. So let me tell you something. I'm going to come out and say it. Listen, people were not given all of the discovery when you're working this case. The only part that you're given, okay, is whatever you're working on. You understand that? Like, it's whatever the defense wants to give you, just like a prosecutor, whatever they give you, okay? I believe, I don't know this, I can't prove this. I believe that Dr. Brent Turvey didn't have everything, but that somebody else did due to the leak, okay? And then he was given material that Ann Taylor didn't even give him. That's what I think. But we'll see. He signed a confidentiality agreement on October 30th, 2024, which the defense said remains in effect today. The agreement with Mr. Turvey was crystal clear that all materials, as well as any opinions that he developed as an expert, were to be kept confidential. Culber's defense wrote in the statement sent to the Statesman. That's it. So the Statesman just said, do you have a statement that you want to put out for this is what your expert said? This is this book. This, you know what I mean? Like that type of thing. So Mr. Turvey has not been released from his confidentiality agreement and is now speaking about topics that are still confidential, many of which are outside of his areas of expertise. Exactly. I haven't seen him. I thought he's only been speaking about I think what she means is if he's talking to, if like Dr. Turvey's talking to like Chris about things that are like not crime scene related. I can tell you this, that Ann Taylor's witness list tells me that she knew how she was navigating this. You don't have Jacob Tisdall on your witness list and not know what you're going to, and not be getting it. Okay. Ann's witness list, in my opinion, was very interesting to me. Now, whether she was able to nail, the material. Let's see. In response to a prior interview request, Dr. Turvey provided the Statesman with a previously unreleased photo of a police evidence bag. He said it showed the police chain of custody for a key piece of evidence in the case was insufficient and would have been challenged at trial. Culber pleaded guilty last year in the November 2022 stabbing deaths of four and never took a trial. Moscow Police Chief Anthony, okay, blah, blah, blah. Told the Idaho statements that Turvey's allegations were unfounded and would not have resulted in the knife sheath found at the Moscow crime scene, nor the DNA located on it being excluded at trial. Well, we'll see. Turvey also is thanked and features in a new book about the Moscow homicides case called Broken Plea. He's thanked in the book. I don't believe that. It says, to my father for his lifelong devotion to truth, justice, and the rule of law. The book hit shelves Tuesday. Well, that's today. And quote, the defense team is appalled by Mr. Turvey's behavior and his release of documents and information that he knows are confidential. Culver's defense team wrote, his reliability should be seen through the lens of this conduct. Ooh, his reliability. I think Anne's doing something, and this wasn't, I don't know, his reliability. Interesting to use reliability. On Tuesday, in an interview with The Statesman, Turvey rejected his former contract employer's accusations. He said that the state already has released almost everything he's talked about and called the defense's team's claims about him a deflection away from issues with the case after questions have continued to be raised about inconsistencies in the investigation and the decisions that led to Kohlberger's plea deal. The bottom line is, in my 30 years, I've never divulged confidential or case-sensitive material that was outside my realm or outside my anything. Turvey said by phone, nothing that I shared was not already public, or at least provided in discovery that was eventually data dumped by law enforcement in Idaho. Rarely has Turvey chosen to speak with media unless asked to do so by a client. He added, this case is different. He said, this case is different. This is an extraordinary case with extraordinary types of exculpatory evidence that were not being brought to light. Turvey said, referencing items and information that allegedly could disprove Kohlberger's guilt. And so that's the reason for the discussion with Whitcomb, because so much stuff was being misstated and buried and not talked about by both sides. Oh my God. This is great. Burning down the system. Go back to my interview when I specifically asked at the end of my interview with Chris. I said, I just want to be clear. Both sides. People came to you from both sides in some capacity and were like, this needs to be looked at. Okay? He challenged Taylor and her team to point to specific violations of the confidentiality agreement he signed because nothing he has said reveals attorney-client privileged information or would cause harm to their client. I couldn't possibly guess what's in her head, he told The Statesman. You'd have to ask her to be specific. And if she's too specific, she can get herself into a lot of trouble. Because then Cobra 31 was sentenced to 4 life terms in prison. Oh, you guys, this is not good. I mean, it's what it's oh boy. Ann Taylor's not gonna like what's coming next. Oh shit. So I'm confused though. If he signed something in October of 2024, you guys are gonna make me go back. Everybody should have a problem with the plea deal. The family should. Everybody should. If it's true, and Hitler told Ann Taylor and Bill Thompson not to talk to anybody, and that these two just need to work it out, you got to be fucking kidding me. The public is going to love this. Well, boy. Oh boy. Shit's coming. Well, there's more. Oh shit. There's fucking more. Oh no. This wouldn't make any sense though. Oh boy. I think people are coming forward and going to be considered whistleblowers. So, okay. The leak investigation was still going on. So, what's going on with the leak investigation? Sources are saying that FBI said that this is fucked, and fucked from both sides. Like the handling of this case, everything like that, and that, you know, here you go, like this is fucked, right? And now if we remember on the 13th, remember it was just Moscow Police Department and Idaho State Police in that house right after the murders, with the crime scene. Damn. I wonder if Nick Balance is going to say anything. He was the only one. I'm trying to find out who was co-located at Moscow during the time. Because the more and more I'm digging, I thought they had like multiple people there co-located. Like, hey, you're going to Moscow and you're going to be there for like, I'm thinking there isn't as many as we think. They were staying at wherever they're at, doing whatever they do. But if they were using these fucking idiots that are like these task force fuckers in Idaho, like the Ed Jacobsons of the world, man. They're going to try to blame Ann Taylor for the leak. Lawyers for convicted killer Brian Kohlberger have taken aim at a forensic scientist hired to help in their client's defense at his Idaho murder trial, asserting in their first statement since he pleaded guilty last summer that the expert witness violated a standing confidentiality agreement. Now, understand something here. Ann Taylor's NDA with Dr. Brent Turvey has nothing to do with Hitler. Okay? Attorney Ann Taylor, joined by public defenders Elise Mathis, Bickle Barlow, alleged that recent public statements by defense expert Brent Turvey, including earlier this month to the Idaho Statesman, quote unquote, falls outside of the ethical and legal norms that are applied to experts in criminal cases. Among a host of experts, Turvey was hired by Kohlberger's attorneys late into their handling of the closely watched case solely to provide an opinion about the crime scene, nothing else. He cited a confidentiality agreement on October 30th, 2024, which the defense said remains in effect today. So you signed that to even just begin to talk. So I guess that would be November. The agreement with Mr. Turvey was crystal clear that all materials, as well as any opinions that he developed as an expert, were to be kept confidential. Kohlberger's defense wrote in the statement sent to the Statesman, quote unquote, Mr. Turvey has not been released from his confidentiality agreement. Again, that's not the gag. That's between her and Ann, or him and Ann, and is now speaking out about topics that are still confidential, many of which are outside of his areas of expertise. What has Brent Turvey said on the record and not through somebody in a book? I want a goddamn statement. I want Hitler. Well, CrimeCon's going to be a blast. Could this violate the plea? Listen, you guys, they want to, if things, okay. How this should look for everybody right here is that we all know it's a fact before Ann Taylor was ever on this case. In fact, you know what? Fuck this. I'm going to prove it right here. Let's bring it up. The prosecution has always been the leak, because before there ever was a fucking defendant, okay, Bill Thompson and how he operates, he was on a whore tour. Damn it. Mm-hmm. I'm just pulling them up. Hitler needs to, he wants to get control of this. Hitler's like, oh my God, what the fuck am I seeing? What the hell is going on? What do you mean, what the hell is going on? This is a closed case. It's over. Like, what's the problem? This case wasn't as open and shut as y'all said. This case is whack as fuck. Okay. And it is what it is. And you're already unsealed and all this stuff. Like, why aren't you putting it out there? Like, you said that it can be unsealed. Like, what are you doing? Well, let's see. Bill Thompson interview with Brian Enton. I know they did one. We want his from back in the beginning. Bill. Fucking Bill. Okay. Here we go. You guys will appreciate this one. I'm trying to pull up stuff from like 2-3 years ago.
Investigates. I am covering the Moscow, Idaho Brian Kohlberger case. So how would you like it if you were a victim's family member and the prosecution is withholding information from you, not telling you what's going on, keeping you in the dark about the case? You'd probably be upset. You'd probably be furious. You probably would be angry. And that seems to be going on right now with the Brian Kohlberger case. The prosecutor, Bill Thompson, the Lake Tahoe County prosecutor, who's been in office since 1992, it doesn't seem like he's giving any information to the victim's family members, or at least the Gonzalez family, because Shannon Gray spoke about it. And I'm going to share this clip with you and we'll further discuss.
Mm-hmm. Could you also kind of share any details about the evidence against Brian Kohlberger and the prosecution's strategy for the upcoming trial?
We don't have any of that information. They don't share any of that stuff with us. I think that's part of them keeping everything close to the vest. There's the idea that having no information out to the public at all in some way protects the jury pool. But we would prefer that we'd have some information shared with us, but we really don't have anything.
Okay.
So we don't know.
Shannon Gray, thank you for your time. Thank you.
So Shannon Gray would like some information, something, right? But he's not getting it. He's not getting any information from the Lake Tahoe County prosecutor. Why? Now, according to the Idaho Constitution, victims have rights. Victims of crimes have rights. This comes from the Idaho Legislature, Constitution of the State of Idaho, Article 1 Declaration of Rights, Section 20.
What is this, John Lee Riches? I come over here and what are you fucking selling me? Okay. What is that? That's not what I was looking for, okay? What the hell? Okay, what the hell is going on? All this stupid ass shit. The ridiculous. 3 years ago, no evidence. Idaho killings were drug related.
So let me get to the other big break of the day, because honestly, Brian, if you are following this case, especially online, so many people have said this was such a brutal stabbing murder, so gangland style, that perhaps there was some kind of drug activity or drug connection, and you got a definitive answer on that today.
Yeah, I asked the prosecutor about that, and he said to his knowledge, drugs are not involved. I tried to ask him, you and I were on the phone last night going over all these theories for hours, and I tried to get to almost all of them. He said, I asked him about whether or not inside the house the killer left any messages, anything on the walls. He said no, not to his knowledge, but the drugs was a big one. He addressed that. Listen to what he told me.
3 years ago.
Could drugs be involved in all of this?
I have not heard that there's any suspicion that drugs played a role in the killings.
So not like a
That's all they were asking about in those interviews.
drug deal gone bad or something like that.
I am not aware of anything like that, no.
And that's obviously
So,
important,
Brian.
Ashley, because if you look online, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that's a big one because there's all sorts of theories online that there may have been drugs involved, but he said right there,
How about this? There's a lot of theories online that the sheath was shit. How about that?
no, that's not the case.
No, nobody knew about a sheath. Neither did the Idaho State Police. They didn't know about a sheath until December 6th because, oh, wait. But they did, but it was on the floor. It was, oh, boy.
Which it leaves us even more confounded, because again, with that violent style of murder, angry, almost retributive, it's now leaving us to all the other possibilities of why someone might not have done that if it weren't to avenge, a drug deal or a drug turf or something like that. So
Drug turf. Ashley. Moscow, Idaho, home of the drug turfs.
So the other question
There's a turf war, goddammit.
I had when we saw those cars being towed, and I don't know if we can roll some of that video, I was curious about it being day 16. I would have
16.
thought that those vehicles might have actually had some clues in their inner mechanisms. The GPS locator sometimes can tell you where cars have been, where cars have driven. But 16 days later, they could not have processed that on the scene. And now here they are towing them away. And also, they're towing them away in an unusual way.
You guys, they just let those cars sit there. Okay, do nothing. Not try to get into them. Who cares? Whatever. It's a turf war, man. No.
You can see that the front wheels are on another set of wheels. I don't know if you know whether that's to stop the jostling of the evidence that might still be in the vehicle.
What?
Did they say anything about that?
They had a couple of different tow trucks out there. I don't think they towed them all that way, so I don't know that's the reason.
I think I know the reason. They don't have a flatbed that they could get up in there. And this would make it so that what?
But we asked police why today, and basically they just said it was now time to move them to a secure facility where they would do further crime scene processing of the cars. I got to tell you, overall, the feeling I got today after these interviews with police and the prosecutor is if there's no person of interest and, they're making some progress, but it seems like now they're going back and really examining some of these other items, including the cars.
Well, then let's hope that they're going to have an opportunity to get into some kind of evidence that might exist within those vehicles, even if it's the electronic evidence that will show where the vehicles might have been, if that yields any clues. So slowly, it appears that they may be moving towards eventually releasing that crime scene. And I've always wondered whether they were going to hold
releasing this crime scene. They're going to be wrecking this house.
that crime scene indefinitely until they caught someone and prosecuted someone, just like Stoneman Douglas. The high school was held like a vault, like a museum for years and years, so that the jury could actually go there and see it exactly as it was when the shootings happened. Is that going to happen with this house?
I don't think so.
They're going to make a museum here, Ashley. Yeah.
I asked the prosecutor that question. It doesn't sound like they plan to hold it like this indefinitely until there's possibly a trial. If they catch the killer, hopefully they will. But he did tell me they're in no rush to clear it. He said what he told the police and the detectives is he feels that they should keep this a crime scene as long as they feel they need to, until they have looked at every single possible little thing. And again, finding out today that there is no person of interest and there is no suspect behind the scenes that they know about, it seems that they're going to keep it this way for a while, because there's a lot more investigating to do.
Oh, there definitely is, Brian. We are at it here, 3 going on so many years later, and we are just now getting wind. Oh, boy. Well,
yeah, there was some talk that they might be actually releasing that house soon. And I just wonder if that's actually going to happen.
Ashley, your sources are fucking shitty.
And don't forget, there's 2 survivors. Presumably, they were taken from that house instantly without all of their possessions. And then, of course, those families of the victims would probably want to get some of the possessions of their children back at some point. So that's
You haven't hit the U-Hauls yet? When's
it's
that?
a morbid thought, but it's also important for some of those families. Thank you for watching.
Absolutely.
Go to newsnationnow.com.
Absolutely. I wouldn't have it any other way. Is this the one with...
or any information, she's already conveyed that to the investigator.
May I ask you if you can confirm that Xana's room was on the 2nd floor of the house?
Yes, I can confirm that. And
And was it on? Sorry?
I just had a question about the other 2 roommates who were there on the 1st floor, and I just wonder, wasn't something heard, or the surviving roommates that were there, they had...
Do you know that she found out about this while she was in jail? That's in the book. She was incarcerated. She was at the county. She found out about Xana. The police, nobody thought that they should tell her. And so she found out through like the news.
to have heard something. They had to have, the dog, something.
I can help you with that somewhat.
Look at her. Kara, first question. I just have a question for the surviving roommates. You had to have heard something. The dog, something. Yeah, absolutely, Kara. Absolutely.
There is information from a prior tenant who lived on the 1st floor, who said when he lived there in 2019, he moved out. He said he could never hear anything on the 2nd or 3rd floor.
Nuts. Nuts that Ashley would put that shit out there. Nuts. That is such a lie. Absolute lie.
If the television was playing very loudly on the 2nd floor, he might hear it from the 1st floor. And I don't know if that helps you to understand.
The dog heard it, and the dog had to have been barking. You know,
I have information there as well. That I've got.
I can't believe that Ashley was peddling that shit about some old roommate and blah blah bullshit.
information there as well. Our Brian Enton spoke with the parents of Kaylee Gonzalez, and they have actually referred to that. And Brian's going to play that interview in a moment. But Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen on that first floor may not have been able to hear anything, according to the prior tenant, who said it was extremely difficult to hear because of the construction of that house. But I do want to ask you if I can.
Oh, really? Because Dylan's right here saying, "Oh my God, we could hear everything in there. The walls are just so paper thin." Whose room is this? This is Xana's. What room do you think this is? That fluffy chair like that? Yep, that's Xana's. This is actually in Xana's room. That's Xana's little chair. Okay, that's the closet. The door's closed. That's it. That's Xana's desk.
Kara, was your daughter Xana's room on the right side of the house if you're looking from the parking lot, or on the left side across from the kitchen?
I can't answer that. I can't.
But you do know she was on the.
I never went there yet, so I don't know.
But you know she was on the second floor. Do you know if she looked out the front of the house or the back of the house?
Actually, are you an idiot? We all already knew all this shit. What are you asking?
I believe in the front, but I can't confirm. Like I said, I haven't been down to visit it yet. So I tried to go last month, but she was in class while I was down there. So.
Okay, our viewers are looking at the front of the house right now, and the window that I'm referring to is on the second story in the front of the house, and that's where we are, triangulating that perhaps that's where Xana and Ethan were that night. I do want to ask you if you know whether or not Xana had a lock on her bedroom door.
Oh, are you fucking kidding me? She said she never.
She did. Yeah.
What the hell, Ashley?
On every one of the doors in that home, all 6 bedrooms were rented separately.
No, they weren't. Do you see all this misinformation that she put out? Is just so bad, but I love it because I told you guys it was all wrong back then, and it was all wrong. I was like, I cannot believe the lies that are being spewed over here. This case is just the mainstream media and these fucking idiots fuck this case so royally the fuck up. And it's gross. And you know what's funny is Brian Enton introduces himself as the face of the Idaho4 case, of the Idaho4 case. It was like, he did all this groundbreaking whatever. Groundbreaking what? The fuck did Brian Enton groundbreak in the Idaho4 case? You went and got the prosecution patty cake narrative with a bow on it, and that's what you pumped out to the world. And guess what? Watch what's about to fucking happen. And so I'm glad that you think that you're the face of Idaho4 case, because literally that's what he said when he introduced himself to somebody. And I was like, well, you got it fucking crazily,
apartments, and they all had coded locks. But lots of social media pictures have shown at least one of the locks on the door across from the kitchen on the second floor. It didn't appear to have a coded lock. But do you think that
her father mentioned to me that he had just went and replaced the lock the weekend before?
He didn't replace the lock. He fixed the hinge, the hinges. That's it. There was no lock.
He had fixed it, or
before.
Yeah.
So then that's the lock on her own bedroom door, not the lock to the outside of the house. That's her own bedroom door's lock.
The main lock he was referring to.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Just from telling me that when we were speaking. So.
But you're talking about Jeff, right? Jeff Kernodle.
Yeah, and the last time that they had a phone call was actually on Friday night, guys. So all the Saturday stuff, no, on Friday they had a conversation, the phone records. So
Xana's dad?
Yeah, absolutely.
And he had been there just a couple weeks before working on a lock, but you're not sure what door.
Just the weekend before, and he went to meet Ethan's parents, and went to check on Xana. And
okay, Dylan Mortensen, Via Visco, and Bethany Funk. What? That is not Dylan Mortensen. That is not Dylan. Is that really what's on the screen right now? That is not Dylan. I'm just.
It was Dad week at WSU for Jasmine, so he was over there, and they're pretty close schools. Pullman and Moscow are
I remember when we went
fairly short distance away from each other.
Did Xana's car have Arizona plates?
Yes.
I can't answer that. I don't know. Likely, yes.
Do you know what kind of car she was driving? About the roommates, the surviving roommates. Have you had any opportunity to contact them? Do you or Jeff or Xana's sister, Jasmine, do you have their contact information? Are you able to call them to talk to them?
You guys, look at what time it is at this party, this house party. It's 20 to 4. Okay, if that clock is right. I told you. You think that Kaylee is in the living room shaking her ass and fucking Dylan's not shaking her ass too? Get the fuck out of here, man. Okay? Rewind back and check out that part of the live. It was just priceless.
Jasmine and Jeff are in contact with them, yes. They were all at the memorial today. And yeah.
And what did those girls, Bethany and Dylan, say to Xana's dad and her sister about that morning when they woke up and came upstairs? What did they tell
They never came upstairs.
Jeff and Jasmine?
I don't know. You would have to ask them that.
Yeah,
I'm not going to speak for anybody else. I'm sorry.
Do you know, Kara, if Dylan and Bethany came upstairs and were trying to wake Xana? Because they were trying to wake one of their roommates. Do you know if it was your daughter they were trying to wake?
I don't have that answer either. I'm sorry.
She wants the answer.
Okay. And did they say that they could not get beyond because they were trying to Bethany came upstairs?
They're the whites right there, I think, right now. Yeah, maybe. No, wait, where is this? Where is this at? Huh.
And were trying to wake Xana because they were trying to wake one of their roommates. Do you know if it was your daughter they were trying to wake?
I don't have that answer.
Could not on the other side of the bedroom door and called in an unconscious. They had no idea, not get beyond a locked door. And that's why they had no idea what was on the other side of the bedroom door and called in an unconscious person.
Ashley, who is your source for this back in the day? This is awful.
We're trying to wake Xana because they were trying to wake one of their roommates. Do you know if it was your daughter they were trying to wake?
I don't have that answer either. I'm sorry.
It's okay. And did they say that they could not get beyond a locked door? And that's why they had no idea what was on the other side of the bedroom door and called in an unconscious person?
I believe that's right.
What do you know about
what?
On the other side of the bedroom door and called in an unconscious person?
I believe that's right.
What do you know about that?
That they called in an unconscious person. I know that. But beyond that, I don't know.
But they didn't. They didn't call in. They decided to call it that. They didn't say. They said that they didn't know what was going on in their house. They said pretty much at 4 a.m. this is what happened, but we have no idea what's going on in our house. And then it was, will she wake up? And these girls did not use the word unconscious, did they?
It's hard for you to understand as well why, if there was such a terrible crime that had been committed, the roommates might not have seen the evidence of that crime.
Absolutely, yes.
Have they told you at all, Kara, when you can retrieve?
Oh, God.
Oh, Xana, what would you like people to know about your daughter? We've seen pictures.
She's a rock star and everybody loved her. Okay.
So let me get to the other big break of the day because.
Oh, the other big break of the day, Ashley. Where we go? Okay. Where's our other stellar? Look at this. Bill Thompson interview with Brian Etten. How about this? Nine months ago. 8 months ago. 9 months ago. 9 months ago. 999. Actually, you know what? I want to show you guys something.
Students killed was Ethan Chapin. His parents say they're devastated
What?
and they're still trying to process what happened.
As Connor Board from our sister station King 5 in Seattle reports, they're remembering Ethan as
No, that's not. Where's like the one that's super long? Here it is.
Me how you guys are doing.
That's a tough question.
It is tough.
Every room. He's funny. He literally, we were trying to have a conversation really quickly about our favorite memory. We spike ball champion, volley. He refereed youth basketball on the weekend. Literally, we're like, we've done it. We've something great to offer. We have to worry about these kids. I don't know, whatever it is. This is something you wake up and you realize it's never going to go away. And it's
Now, I know it seems like
affect us, but we will not let this sink us. Have anything you want to add? Hunter, Maisie? He was their number one, and that's going to be a hard loss for both of our kids without him to figure out how to live.
Yeah.
It's important for us. I mean, the reason we've agreed to do this is there's some misinformation out there, and that's been hard for us. And that's why we, as a family, talked about it and agreed to do this, because the things that are being said are 100% not true. There's not drugs involved. There's not some weird love triangle. Ethan stayed the night at his girlfriend's house, who was one of 5 girls who lived in the home. And it's just important that people let the criminal part of it.
Okay, so back when this all happened and this interview came out, I was like, who the heck is saying that this was a love triangle? Because that was not like a rumor that was even like in like Reddit, YouTube, mainstream media. Like that had to be like a campus, a fraternity or sorority thing that was going on, or that rumor, because that wasn't out and about. Okay, that was not something that was I was hearing, was that it was some like love triangle. Okay, so that when they did this interview, I was like, huh, I wonder why anybody would be saying that. But then we find out that Ethan was getting these texts that Xana was cheating on him.
Try to work itself out, and that these kids, these all of the kids were just really good, great kids. So, I mean, the light of the school, I mean, everybody knew them.
one of them, I believe, was his girlfriend was also killed. Is that correct?
Yes, Xana. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were in the same room.
And I think that's all the questions I have, but I really do appreciate you.
You think that you're going to have to speak with a...
Well, I think this was the interview. I'm not going to sit here and parse it, but this is when the interviews that came out and said it was like 2 a.m. was a dark hour. Okay, do you guys remember that? The 2 a.m. being a dark hour? Well, I do. And I'm like, 2 a.m. 2 a.m. is a dark hour. And I think it's I go to this timeline that they were trying to work, and this Cooper Atkinson attempts to call Ethan 5 times on FaceTime at 2:01. 2:01. So what I could see happening here is Hunter, Maisie, they're all trying to ask around, like, and then they talk to this Cooper guy, right? And Cooper's like, dude, I tried to call him 5 times on FaceTime at 2:01. He didn't answer. You know, I asked a couple different people if they're like, was Xana a sock sleeper? Was Ethan somebody that's went to sleep with his socks on? You know, Bethany, Dylan, all of these kids, right? People are either sock sleepers or they're not. Okay? And if you're getting ready to go to bed and you're in bed and you're sleeping, right? And Kaylee wasn't a sock sleeper. Like either you are or you aren't, okay? And that was huge for me. Kaylee having her sock, one sock on and the other one was off, but that means like she had them on, okay? And that's just not somebody that's in bed sleeping that chose to get into bed and go to sleep. All right, it's time to go to bed. I'm gonna go to bed. Like, you know, like at 2:53. So what's up, Dago baby? Shake it. So I always sleep with socks on. Yeah. So some people are and some people aren't. Okay. And it's things like that. My socks will be all the way on, right? And then I get to bed and socks are coming off. So what I think about is Ethan just had socks on. And then somebody pulled the blanket over him, right? And then I think about Kaylee, and Kaylee had socks on. And then one of them came off. I'm guessing in the struggle. What's up? What's up? Today's been just a wild day. And so pretty much at 2 a.m. Remember, nothing was weird between 2 and 4, and then pretty much at 4. Well, no. Pretty much at 2 a.m. So I want to do an exercise, which is if we take all of the statements from Dylan and Bethany and we throw them in the garbage. Okay? What's on the table? If you take this case, what do you have without anything that they would have ever said? Okay, you take everything that, like, you'd have to rely on what? Like, you know. So we take what Dylan said and Bethany, and we just remove it from the case. I'll tell you what you don't have. The time of the crime, right? Oh, thank you. Anna looks so beautiful tonight. Are you guys like I told you, look at how blonde I put all this blonde back in. You actually have to do like work. I feel like you have to be an investigator, right? But if it was yeah. Can you believe that to this day right now that the Moscow Police Department and Aledo County Police Department, like Aledo County Sheriff's, FBI, either they know and they're just not telling us, right? But on paper, it would look like they have no idea what time Ethan and Xana came home, where they were. Nothing. And do you understand that that's just like not possible? That's just like not possible. Because they both had their devices. Unless you're going to sit here and tell me that they can't use those devices because something's wonky. Like somebody else had it. Because they were fucking around with somebody and so they took the device, and so that's like me, you know, like it's. But yeah, if you take away what Dylan said and Bethany said in this case, and you know, if they would have called the police and said that they both got home at 11 or 11:30, and they went upstairs, and that's what. Where would they go? What would they do?
Funeral home directors and and they need to be lifted up and cared for, speaking on his behalf. So we think it's best for us to do this.
I'm looking for, they all go to high school.
Everything, college, they all went to the same university.
So fucking sad. So sad. Let's go with
So looking at my calendar, Mr. Thompson, it's interesting that you'd be right in the middle of jury selection had this trial gone forward.
Mr. Thompson.
What are you doing now this summer? The fact that your calendar kind of opened up.
Well, we still have plenty to do. As you might recall, Judge Hippler is having us address all the different filings with the court that were sealed.
We'll be right back with you, Bill.
Do I see overwhelming issues with this case writ large that nobody has seen or talked about? Yes, I do.
The author of a new book about the Idaho murders, raising questions about the evidence and Brian Kohberger's guilty plea.
And I think I'm the first lightning rod that takes, that people talk about. But there are others coming. This is not over. This is the beginning.
Could Kohberger's case end up back in court? I'm Anjanette Levy, and this is Crime Fix.
You guys, this is just the tip of the iceberg. The shit that's coming down the pipe.
Before we get into talking about this new book, I want to tell you about an app I've been and its frequent users earn an average.
Love Anjanette, but we're going to pass that for right now. Okay, girl? Okay.
Murders of Maddie Mogan, Kaylee Gonsalves, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle. In prison, he's a number, 163214. Kohberger pleaded guilty. to those gruesome murders, the stabbing deaths of those 4 beautiful college students, it was somewhat of a shock because Kohberger's defense team was heading toward trial despite losing every motion to suppress evidence and a last-ditch effort to delay the trial after a massive leak of evidence to the NBC show Dateline.
You guys, nothing will change the fact that Dateline had that shit. Woo! So long ago. Bill Thompson, leaky.
The investigation into that leak, I've learned, is ongoing. Kohberger pleaded guilty. He said he committed the crimes and waived his right to appeal. Although, as I've told you before here on Crime Fix, he can still appeal. Now a new book available as your...
And guess what his best avenue to appeal is? Ineffective assistance of counsel. Ineffective assistance of counsel is your best. Your second then best is going to be like a sweet habeas. Okay. So Turvey just got thrown on the bus by Ann Taylor. I don't know if that's exactly what happened, in my opinion. What it looks like what happened is that Turvey basically called out Ann Taylor, but he called out everybody. He said both sides. You know what I mean? Like it's both sides. It is both sides. But I think what's interesting here is that we should all ask ourselves, why would her comment be that you violated my confidentiality? Okay. Or because they had a separate agreement, right? Think about this. You wouldn't care if nothing was coming. You understand? What would you care about this for? You wouldn't care. Think, people, think. Ann Taylor wouldn't care, right? So why does she care? To me, there's only two ways. And that would be, how about ask yourself this? Why would she ever reach out to Brent Turvey if she was trying to tank the case? To tank the case. Why would she ever have reached out to him on October 30th? She wouldn't have, okay? Ann Taylor has kept every card that she's ever going to play. And it was always like, Ann Taylor's going to play the long game. Ann Taylor was going to play the long game. Now, if that means like telling, if it's a true statement where she's like, I didn't advise Brian of anything. I told him like this is this and this is this and this is this. Did Brian ask her for her advice? Did she just go in and say, hey, this is what, what's really the truth here? Did Brian say, hey, go ask Bill Thompson for a plea deal? Brian hasn't done that, ever. Like now all of a sudden just go get. No, you guys, it was Hippler that does that little nod to say, are there any final offers here or what's going on? Because I'm going to be shutting it down and there's going to be no more. And then we're going to trial. So there's no more negotiating. And then all of a sudden there's a plea deal. That would align. Okay. With what supposedly Turvey had in this conversation with what's her name, Ann Taylor. She was in Idaho. As long as he was in a state that you're allowed to do the recording, maybe one of his rules is that I can sign whatever you want, but I have to record everything because I have to go over what you're saying, and so I just record everything. So as long as you understand that that's what's going to be taking place. I don't know what they signed. But
watching this is raising questions.
That's what Ann Taylor has to say over like the bombshell, like did she take it as like maybe Ann Taylor, the way that she looks at it is that Brent Turvey, the way that you came about it and went about it, you're making it seem like I'm incompetent versus I didn't tell you everything, and I only talked to you about what I talked to you about. But we weren't sitting down having like war rooms, and that's not what had happened here. So you just are spinning things to whatever you think, but you don't know what I know, and I didn't provide you with everything. And so I'm interested in that, where it would be like,
about the evidence used to arrest Bryan Kohberger, and it's revealing new claims that we haven't heard before. The author of this book, Chris Whitcomb, a former FBI agent, was provided with things that the public hasn't seen, tens of thousands of files and expert reports. He's written about it in his new book, Broken Plea. Now, experts for Bryan Kohberger's defense team, who fully expected to go to trial and were shocked when he pleaded guilty, cooperated with Whitcomb for the book. Only 2 allowed their names to be used. They were former FBI agent Chris Holland and criminologist Dr. Brent Turvey. In the book, Whitcomb questions the chain of custody regarding the K-bar knife sheath found next to Maddie Mogen's leg on her bed. DNA analysis.
Now, allegedly, supposedly, this is all blood. This picture here is all blood. So it's not like a leg or something, you know what I mean? Like, this is just all blood.
Revealed that Kohberger's DNA was found on the leather strap of that sheath. Turvey claims to have discovered the potential issue with the chain of custody in the days before the plea deal was announced. And Whitcomb says it could have resulted in the sheath being tossed out as evidence. Now, we don't know if that's true. Typically, an issue like that is litigated far before a trial. Chris Whitcomb will explain this issue for you very shortly. The book also includes details about interviews with Bryan Kohberger's mother and Kohberger. Her son was not acting strangely when he came home for Christmas break in 2022. She also said he wasn't dating anyone and didn't have many friends. It didn't sound like she knew about his troubles at WSU. Now, those interviews are things that I have requested from the FBI and Moscow police, and those requests have been denied.
Isn't that ridiculous?
So I want to bring in the...
I love Anjanette Levy, by the way. If you don't know, she is on this, she has her show here with a long crime fix, but she also has her own channel. Go check her out.
Author of this new book, Broken Plea, Chris Whitcomb. He is a former FBI agent. He's also worked in the intelligence community. Chris, thank you so much for coming on.
Sure, appreciate talking to you. Thank you.
How did you get involved in writing this book about the Idaho case?
I had just finished, or I was finishing another book about another crime, a missing persons crime from about 30 years ago. And I was having coffee with a former FBI colleague. We started talking about what we're doing, catching up, and he told me about this case. And I had not heard about it. I'd been buried in 2 books for 2 years. And when I'm writing, I'm pretty much in the project. So he started explaining it to me, and I said, well, look, they've made the arrest. It seems like the evidence is overwhelming. It's headed for trial. Why would I have any interest? And I didn't. I went on with what I was doing. Then he came back and he said, well, take a look at this. And he started to show me things that he had seen that he was working on because he had access for various reasons. And I started to realize very quickly that things I saw in the file did not match with the narrative that was being discussed pretty widely. It was a very sensationalized case.
See, right there, you know, Chris is telling you that his source for the documents is not Brent Turvey. That's the way I'm understanding it.
So that piqued my interest, and over time, over a couple of weeks probably.
And which would make sense because I don't believe that Ann Taylor gave all these discovery files to all these experts. That's not how it worked.
I saw more and more documents. I became
whatever is your specific thing that you don't say, you know, you're not giving somebody, here's, you know, that's not what happens.
more and more involved, and eventually we ended up here.
What were the things that really stood out to you? Those things that you found most?
Paulette Sutton's report, which showed anomalies, as many people would call them anomalies, but things that stood out because you have 3 discrete crime scenes within this house itself. It's a large house, 3 stories, 6 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. We all know the house. The bedroom on the 3rd floor looked like a traditional crime scene. The bedroom on the second floor, Xana's bedroom, looked very, very similar. The characteristics, the blood spatter, the things that you would see in a homicide of this investigation, an investigation like this, homicide investigation. And then the common areas of the second floor, how the killers got from the third floor to the second floor, based on Paulette Sutton's report, eventually on Dr. Brent Turvey's report, and what I was seeing, it stood out as very, very different. The blood that was diluted with an unknown substance, many, many things that stood out as problematic. Then as I got looking into the details of the case, the knife sheath came up, and the knife sheath seemed to be problematic. From there, it became more and more compelling and led to an examination that turned into this book.
Let's talk about, let's break that down a little bit. Let's go back to the blood with the diluted substance. We've seen that in kind of the little snippets of the expert reports that have been released. And this is discussed also in your book. How is it that they're unable to determine what the blood would have been diluted with? I'm kind of confused by that, because I would think that a lab would maybe look for that or be able to tell, but is that just too CSI?
I think it's kind of CSI. It's amazing what technology can do now. But I do believe very strongly, and I talk about it in great depth in this book, that the public thinks DNA analysis, and forensic testing of dried fluids, in this case serum fluids, she brought up mucus and blood. It's very different than what many, many people think. So the lab reports were fairly straightforward. You go down, it's a continuum, right? So you take a sample.
Ethan's apartment, you guys, was located right behind the 76 gas station, whereas like the 1311 South Main Street, like that camera, that's where one of the white cars is coming out of and that becomes and gets on the camera. That's where Ethan's apartment is, in a very interesting location due to the path of travel that one would have to take to get there to the King Road house, which is the path of the travel of the white car. Just saying. That's a fact.
From a crime scene, in this case, either blood samples or swabs of those, goes to a lab, and they test them for certain things. First, is it blood? Does it test positive for blood? If so, it could go type, it could go various things along the way that end up with a microscopic DNA examination that would hopefully be able to trap that specific sample to a specific person. So along that continuum, things go wrong, things become confusing. Mixtures of blood can be particularly confusing. And in this case, trying to determine the chemical composition of something that would dilute blood from the blood itself, because you don't want to compromise the blood itself. So I think there are many chemicals, and I say I think because I'm not a chemist, I'm not a forensic chemist, but based on everything that I've read in the files, seems to indicate that if there were a chemical composition like bleach or like a Lysol type disinfectant, if that were the case, that may have left something that you could analyze chemically. In this case, there was no record of that, which might indicate that it was water, but no one ever said. Paulette Sutton in her report talked about the lab reports, which said the blood stains found in the common areas of the second floor, outside the third floor bedroom.
Okay, ready for this part? Ding, ding, ding. Bethany says that she takes the chips to her bedroom to go watch that show called Big Daddy or whatever, Baby Daddy. There are the chips right there, number one. And number two, are there chips in her bedroom, in Bethany's bedroom? See those chips right there? Bethany said that she took chips down to her bedroom. Just...
outside the second floor bedroom, those were almost all found to be diluted with an unknown substance. Her words, that's a quote. And
you guys, why blame it on the lab? Okay, it's diluted. It's diluted blood. It's diluted blood. Okay, it's mixed with an unknown substance. Okay, but why is it mixed with an unknown substance? Well, because Idaho State. What the fuck would y'all do? What did the crime scene people do? Like, how about, where are these notes? In the notes that we read, they talk about diluted blood. In their handwritten notes, these crime scene people know this shit. Like, that's your job, to go to a crime scene and you see this shit. Like, hey, you notice that there was like all this blood was diluted over here. I mean, come on.
That, of course.
Crime scene people are going to have to start wearing body cams. Everybody's supposed to. Why aren't people wearing body? How that has not changed is just beyond me.
Creates the immediate question, why? Why were the blood stains in the third floor characteristic of what one expect to find in a scene like that? And why would they match the second floor bedroom? And why would this very large area down the hallway from the second floor bedroom, across the living room, the beer pong table, moving up the staircase into the third floor bedroom, why would those bloodstains, and they were prolific, there were a lot of bloodstains, why would those look different? Why would they test different? Why
is L4 right there? Why is nobody talking about the fact that there are no mixtures of the 4 components of all 4 of the victims in at least somebody? Okay, it's their words that it's one knife. It's their words about this case being all these things, and yet they can't prove a fucking thing. And you know what's crazy is that people in the juries will just eat it up. And it's like, you're eating fucking oats, man. You're eating nothing.
Proved to be different in the characteristics. What happened that altered the chemical composition?
How can that be there? How can that fucking be there? How do you not have an answer for this?
The physical characteristics of those
Go count those fucking golf clubs. I think one's missing.
bloodstains. And that had not been addressed, but it presents, at least in my estimation, and other law enforcement people I talked to, really significant questions. And then we went from there.
Yeah, I mean, if it had been something like bleach, I mean, I know enough, I've covered enough cases to know that just kills DNA.
Yes. Well,
so, that it's done. So, that is very interesting. And it would have been interesting to see how the experts would have answered those questions at trial. Let's move on.
We know
now.
that. If you want to go into that, we know the answer to that.
Okay, then tell me.
Paulette Sutton did her report toward the end of the investigation in preparation for trial. The trial date had been set. This report was designed and intended for the prosecution to present and say to the jury, look at these photographs, look at this analysis by a forensic analyst, Paulette Sutton. And then Dr. Turvey came and analyzed it, and they went back and forth. But she's very specific. The physical, the visual, and the chemical composition of those stains found on the second floor were different. How they got there is pretty straightforward. What happened to them after they got there or during the process, that is up for debate to this day.
Let's move.
Okay, let's talk about the fact that Paulette Sutton was going to get on the stand and talk about that the killer got naked. That the killer was naked. Helicoptering his dick around. I would feel there's no way that I would put my boobs and a knife running anywhere near each other. Would you guys put your dick running anywhere near a knife? I mean, come on, like that just gives me like really little like that weird angle. Like it's like
Move on now to the sheath.
Right.
The sheath is as close as you're going to get to a so-called smoking gun in this case. I mean, that without the sheath, in my opinion, there's no probable cause.
Well, they didn't use the sheath in. There's no probable cause. There's no probable cause without Dylan. There is no probable cause without Dylan. Dylan makes the timeline. Dylan makes the car relevant. Otherwise, you are looking at, okay, what are we going to... You don't have... Dylan makes the probable cause. Without Dylan, you don't have anything, because that sheath could have been there on the floor. But it doesn't... I think Dylan...
For Brian Kohberger's arrest. I mean, I don't care how many white vehicle identifications you have. I mean, that is the probable cause in this case. So what are the issues that you and these defense experts...
they never talked about that they used IgG, so then there is no probable cause because they lied about everything else in it.
The reports that you've been provided, what are these chain of custody issues that you raise? I read in the book that you talk about how Talbot, the one ISP and crime scene guy, he was like the lead there.
He's a lead detective.
He says like in one report, like, well, he found it on the floor, but then, it's photographed on the bed. And he wrote that report a few weeks after being at the scene and collecting that. But there it sounds like there's more to it, in your opinion, than that. So explain to me what you think these chain of custody issues are as it relates to the sheath.
I'll point out that you talked to Dr. Turvey, I believe, or you were going to talk to Dr. Turvey. He was brought in to look specifically at that knife sheath. What stood out to him initially was the placement of the sheath in the bed relative to blood spatter, and he looked at transference and various things like that. The first thing that I saw when I started to look into it was in the disclosure of the documents, or my access to non-disclosed documents, the Idaho State Police during the, so let's back up. The Moscow Police Department did the crime scene. Officer Nunez does an affidavit, which led to a search warrant. The search warrant led to an Idaho State Police forensic unit that came in and processed the crime scene. They had a standardized form, which has a place to write.
Yeah, you guys know that there was no mention in Noonan's first affidavit that he did to go in there. They didn't talk about no sheath.
To handwrite in details as you collect evidence. On item number 14, which I believe was the second page of the report, the Idaho State Police hand wrote, I can't remember if it was a pencil or a pen, I think it was a pen, but it wrote item number 14, which was the knife sheath. So it says knife sheath found.
Look at knife, sheesh. I'm sorry. Knife, knife, K-bar, sheath, on floor, next victim number 3. 22, knife, second floor, living room table. Man, why wouldn't you put like white beer pong table? Sheesh.
On floor next to victim number 3. So the first thing I thought of, let's give him the benefit of the doubt and say he meant to write found next to the victim on floor number 3. However, on the next line, or the line after that, he specifically states that Maddie Mogan, where the knife was found under her thigh, he identifies as victim number 3. So let's just say that there's no conspiracy here. What's the knife was for the sheath found on.
I don't know that they're trying to say that at all. Sheath. It says on floor. Next victim 3. But it doesn't say found. It says location seized was on floor. And I think you're just saying next to victim 3 would be because it's on that side versus it's not. Under victim 4. Right here. Jewel vape pen. Under victim 4. See that? It's not saying anything about like the floor. So right here, under victim 4. Cell phone, blue, iPhone, pink case, bed, under victim 4. Nothing about what floor it's on.
Floor next to victim number 3. So the first thing I thought of, let's give him the benefit of the doubt and say he meant to write found next to the victim on floor number 3. However, on the next line, or the line after that, he specifically states that Maddie Mogan, where the knife was found under her thigh, he identifies as victim number 3. So let's just say that there's no conspiracy here whatsoever. Let's just say that's what he wrote contemporaneous with picking up the knife sheath, and he says it was found on the floor. Why is that a problem in any way? Who cares where it was found? That's a problem because by the time he wrote his typed formal report of the collection of the evidence, it was submitted, I think it was December 6th. It was about 3 weeks later, roughly 3 weeks later. Now it's in that report, it is suddenly found in the bed, and it becomes a different issue because of the body cam from Officer Nunez when he goes into the bedroom and films Officer Warner directly proximal to where the knife would have been, meaning his thigh was very close to it, and that he did not mention it in his report, nor did Officer Nunez. So you start a path of questions about that sheath. Why is it important, as you just asked? Because that is, I agree with you, it's not the white car, it's not the cell tower dumps, it is that knife sheath that becomes the critical piece of evidence because it contained DNA, and we go from there. Now, getting specifically to chain of custody, many people outside law enforcement or the legal community would say, who cares? Who cares about a chain of custody? You care for this reason. And they teach this at academies from the beginning. When an officer picks up a piece of evidence, places it in a bag, and it goes to a laboratory, the defendant and the defense on his or her behalf want to be able to prove that that was not compromised somewhere along the way. In this case, that knife went into a bag. The bag was sealed and it was signed. It went from there to the Idaho State Police Lab. This is all in reports. There's nothing unusual. It was not compromised somewhere along the way. In this case, that knife went into a bag. The bag was sealed and it was signed. It went from there to the Idaho State Police Lab. This is all in reports. There's nothing unusual about this. However, it did not have affixed to it a chain of custody form. It was a bag. It had a barcode at the bottom, and the Idaho State, or excuse me, the law enforcement has said various things about that, but it had no chain of custody. Later, it suddenly ended up with two forms, which were handwritten chain of custody, saying it went from officer so-and-so to officer so-and-so to the lab, to the evidence room, and eventually to the laboratory. If you look at those photographs, they appear to most people, including myself, to be written in the same pen, a black marker, and in one handwriting. Why would that be a problem? Because it is falsification of the record. And my point in writing, why would that be a problem? Because it is falsification of the record. And my point in all of this is, if I were the defense attorney, Ann Taylor, or any other defense attorney, the first thing I would challenge in a court of law is the provenance of that knife sheath from the crime scene to the time it gets to the FBI laboratory. And that's a fairly significant path. So the next question I've heard people come up with, and they say, well, why didn't Ann Taylor bring it up prior to trial and make it an issue? And the answer, and it's a very, very compelling answer, is that she did not know it. This was not found until the team found the chain of custody anomaly. They presented it to Dr. Brent Turvey, and that ended up being presented because he was there to look at the provenance of the knife sheath. He presented it to Ann Taylor. However, and everybody needs to know this because I know many people talk about it, Ann Taylor did not see this trouble with the chain of custody until I think 4 days, specifically 4 days before Brian Koberger took a change of plea. So she did not challenge it because she did not know about it until just before he changed his plea.
But I guess my question would be, if she is notified that there's this chain of custody issue and that, oh my God.
So basically what they're going to get at is it's going to come out that Ann Taylor did not tell Brian Koberger about this. You understand? Because all Brian Koberger is going to say is, I never knew about this. My lawyer never told me about this. You understand? Let me ask you guys a question. Let's really ask ourselves something. Let's ask ourselves a question, Bill Thompson. Hey, my expert went ahead and found your big mistake, the one that we were talking about back in the day.
Odd, you could go back and get the entire case. I mean, maybe not the entire case, because that if that could have been litigated, why didn't she go back to the court and say, hold the phone? We've discussed, or we've discovered that there's a major potential chain of custody issue here.
I think she did. And then I think that Bill Thompson, I think that Ann went ahead and told Bill about it. Okay. Don't know why. I don't know. Bill Thompson, hurry up, knew that if I offer her a plea deal, she has to take it to her client. Otherwise, it's against. You have to. And so she had to take that, And then if Brian Koberger then asked her what, for advice.
And we need to file a motion to suppress this knife sheath because we believe that there is some type of, and we think we have the evidence to show in good faith that there was a chain of custody issue here, and we're going to file this motion. Why? Because
where are all the signatures of the people that actually traveled it up and traveled it back? And then where's all the signatures of the people that
because the plea deal was in the works and they wanted to wrap it up and move on?
No.
First of all, that's an excellent question. And thank you for talking this out, because in writing a 430-page book based on hundreds of thousands of bits of data, this is one. I mean, you're talking about a small number of pages in this book. A lot of people don't understand it, and nobody's asked questions in the meaningful way that you have. But I would say two things. One, you'd have to ask Ann Taylor, number one. Number two, I think it's very obvious. Dr. Turvey, I talked to Dr. Turvey in putting this book together, but I talked to 3 other sources who were involved in law enforcement or on the defense side. So I'm not just getting all this information from him. But I think what rises as the answer to your question is that this didn't happen in a vacuum. Brian Kohberger did not change his plea. He woke up and walked into our office and said, I'm going to change and plead guilty. The days leading up to this are shrouded in mystery. Nobody knows when the deal was made. Nobody knows how it was made. And I say deal for this reason. It was a death penalty prosecution that right up to the scheduled day of trial was supposed to be that. The obvious change was Brian Kohberger pled to 4 counts of murder with life imprisonment. So it took the death penalty off the table. In something of that consequence, it is reasonable to believe that there was a lot going on between the defense and the prosecution. We know the mitigation team was on the defense side was involved. So what I'm saying is, to me, the obvious answer to your question is there was so much going on. Ann Taylor had lost almost every single motion in limine.
She lost everything.
She lost everything. She lost everything. So it is plausible for me to believe that at the end, 4 days away from going to trial, or very, very briefly before trial, she probably looked at it and said what many people said: who cares about a chain of custody issue? I say I disagree wholeheartedly. If I had ever taken a case to an assistant United States attorney as an FBI agent building a case, I would have been laughed at. I would have had serious questions, probably disciplinary issues, if I had presented evidence with these issues. Now, why did that not come to trial? Because she didn't know about it till the end. I can say that unequivocally. Why she made that decision, I don't know, but it seems plausible at that point that she lost at every single solitary turn, and she had been presented with an offer, and she was in the process of working that out. Do I know that specifically? No. But do I know that it was presented at the end? People say, why didn't you make this a point in the case? I do know that. Yes, I do know that.
So Brian Kohberger on July 2nd, 2025 walks into court, and there's a statement of facts laid out. You write about it in your book, and they ask him if he's guilty, if he broke into the house with the intent to commit the crime of murder, and he says yes 4 times.
He also said guilty.
The only thing that's going to matter here, in my opinion, is if Brian Kohberger had any idea about this. Because I can promise you this: if Ann Taylor did not know it and did not ever saw those pictures and truly know about that, I think that there's a lot that she might not know about. I blame her researchers. They suck. But if she never took that to Brian Kohberger, that's a big problem. That's ineffective assistance of counsel. And she has to take that stuff to him. And where was it? I would love to know where these photos were. I'd also love to go and look at the 27 pages of the exhibits that were going to be used. Was that an exhibit? Okay. Was that an exhibit because those, I mean, that was going to be, okay, let me put it to you guys this way. That was going to be presented in the courtroom when you're handing over, like Ann Taylor would have had to inspect all of that stuff. And all of it's big. Absolutely. Like to the point of and how did I know about this? Well, because she never saw the bag with the sheath was in. They were questioning that from jump though.
4 times. I mean, Judge Hippler went over this again and again and again.
So he's basically saying, like, you got me. I mean, I was in the courtroom. I watched him. I sat there.
Guilty. There was unequivocal. He said yes, and he was guilty. Yes.
Yes, he said it. And I remember as Bill Thompson was reading the statement of facts, I literally had a bird's eye view of Brian Kohberger, and he sat there. He just stared at Bill Thompson the entire time. I don't think he blinked, maybe twice the entire time. And he was listening intently to everything that Bill Thompson said. It was almost as if, in my view, it was like he was listening to see if he got it right, and if it was all correct. And so you've seen far more than the rest of us have. Do you believe that Brian Kohberger committed these crimes factually, from a factual perspective?
I think you've read the book, right? You've read the book, or at least a lot of the book.
I've read much of the book.
Okay, in all of the book.
The answer is
every single
I
page
don't
of the book.
know. People ask me all the time. The answer is I don't know. And you shouldn't know unless you were fucking there, right? I have no idea if he committed these crimes. That's why you have a trial and you present the evidence so that is he guilty beyond a reasonable doubt? That's the burden, okay? Did he do it beyond a reasonable doubt? What? I have no idea if he fucking committed these crimes. I can tell you this though, since day one, what the fuck they've been doing and what they would have presented in a courtroom, it does not go beyond a reasonable doubt. Absolutely not. And so I would have to say no. I would be voting not guilty if I was on a jury based on reasonable doubt. Up and fucking down. Reasonable doubt. Sorry. There is more evidence against Karen Reed than there is Brian Kohlberger. Let that sink in.
Said two things unequivocally. I don't have an opinion. I don't have a theory. I don't speculate. I say this is the evidence. This is what occurred. And the very first pages of the book are that hearing. The book
But
says
you were an FBI agent for years.
Right. But I can't. Okay, if I come out and say what I think, immediately I corrupt everything that I've said in the book, because it's not about what I think. My job here, as I perceive it, was not to say this is a wrongful conviction. I do not shill for the defense. I do not say I'm a former cop, therefore I'm all law enforcement. What I say is I, Chris Whitcomb, stipulate, as lawyers would say, to the fact that he pleaded guilty. And I agree with every word that you've just said. But in the criminal justice system today, do people always plead guilty to things because they're guilty? One might argue that sometimes they do it to make a deal. The plea deal permeates every law enforcement television show, every book, everything you've ever seen in your life, because people take deals all the time. I'm not here to argue why Brian Kohlberger did it or did not take the plea. And I will say that I have great respect for the fact that you were there, and I value your opinion, what you saw. I was not there when he said those things. But we all know, and we have all talked about in great detail, Brian Kohlberger's social, I don't know, it's not a diagnosis, but the things, let me just say this to frame it. Ann Taylor filed a motion in limine and had to get Bill Thompson to agree in a hearing before Judge Hippler that the prosecution would not refer to him in court as a psychopath, right? That is court record. So there was a perception among you and me and various other people that he acted very oddly when he showed up in his interviews, the traffic stops, everything else.
You know what's nuts about that to me? Then what is Dylan? Then how is Dylan acting? She's in interviews saying, like, I'm not even crying, and Bethany's crying all the time. What? Let's say that that's true. You would never say those things, would you? Would you just come out and say, like, Bethany's crying all the time, I'm not?
And I think that a person looking objectively would have to say,
who doesn't call fucking 911, or fuck even calling 911? You just don't call them at first, but there's a masked man in your house and you hear people screaming or crying and you don't at 4:00 in the morning. And then it goes so completely like dead silent, pun intended, dead silent. Yet you think somebody's in your house, but like it's dead silent after crying, and you know, nobody's talking, like not even just like a little like.
Hey, I don't know what's going on in Brian Kohlberger's head. He's a very, very odd guy. So looking behaviorally at a crime is important. And I agree with you. Looking behaviorally at him is very important. But if you're going to do that, you have to look at Brian Kohlberger and say, there's a behavioral characteristic of the crimes themselves. What happened to each of the victims? So
Yes.
Is it valid? Yes, your points are very valid. Do I say that Brian Kohlberger did or did not do it? No.
Yeah, that's my issue too, is if you go based off of a textbook, how Maddie was killed is not that. That's that's very personal. Okay, that's overkill. That does not equate to Brian being her attacker by textbook definitions of stuff.
No, I do not, nor do I have an opinion for this book or talking to you. Do I see overwhelming issues with this case writ large that nobody has seen or talked about? Yes, I do. And I'll say this too. I'm the first one that put this together and came out with something. But I will tell you unequivocally, there are books and other
I'm going to have to disagree with Chris. You may have produced a book, but this channel has been putting together one of the most insanely, like, people thought I had a leak to me putting stuff out in this case. But that's how much we went into crazy shit. All the fucking docs. Timelines. So I'm just so happy that he had the balls to write the book, right? And you have an FBI person that's calling out the fucking process, you guys. That is what's amazing to me, is that the process is being called out. This needed to go to trial, okay? Both sides need to do their jobs. We have a criminal justice system. We don't have a plea party, okay? We don't have plea parties. And if it means that that penalty has to go, okay, in order for this shit not to happen, where somebody can hang somebody's, their life over as like a dangling, chip. Come on.
projects coming out in the not distant future that will look at other aspects of this case. And I think I'm the first lightning rod that takes, that people talk about, but there are others coming. This is not over. This is the beginning.
Do you think that this is the last that we've heard of Brian Kohberger? As you know, part of this plea bargain did not include him, sitting down for a proffer. It did not include him allocuting. He didn't have to offer. He didn't have to give anything.
Nothing. Nothing.
He didn't have to offer any corroborating information, which stuns me because I interviewed Bill Thompson and I said, you didn't even get a proffer from him.
Nothing.
Like you didn't get anything.
Nor was it required. Nor was there any stipulation. I've seen all the talk, and Judge Hipler says you can't mandate it. And I would say, yes, of course, that's the case. But there are certain things about Idaho. You can't take an Alfred plea in this case. You can't do certain things. And one of those things is a condition of a plea agreement could have included allocation. That's certainly an option.
They could have said, we'll take death off the table, but you need to sit down. He needs to sit down with us, Ann Taylor, and we need some corroborating information. It could have been as simple as that.
Then feed them the information. Okay. How about this? For neither one of these people, both sides, right? As an attorney, if you want me all of a sudden, like, hey, they're adamant that they're innocent, right? And now all of a sudden they want to take this plea deal, or they want a plea deal, okay? And I'm over here like, what are you doing? You didn't do this. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? You didn't do this. Like, was Ann Taylor saying, like, Brian, I cannot win this case, and I just want to save your life? Okay. Or because that would never come out of my mouth about, I'm going to ask you why all of a sudden you're changing your mind and that you want to take a plea deal. I need to know did somebody do something? Did somebody threaten your family? Like, what's going on? And then if you're adamant that you did it, okay, Brian, you did it. Where's the gun? Where's the knife? Where's your clothes at that you wore? Because I would be showing him that I don't believe that you did this, because we've gone through all of this. But you know what? You did it. Okay. Prove it. That's what you have done, right? I'm starting to think that Ann Taylor had no idea that she was being recorded.
Where did he put the knife? So anything. Where are the clothes? Did he bury the clothes? Because we know about the shovel and
just explain the weapons. I mean, we've never found the blunt force trauma inflicted on Kaylee. Nobody even talks about the fact that something used to attack her was taken out of the house. Nobody's even ever mentioned that. It's seldom mentioned.
I've talked to people. I talked to an expert who said it could have been as easy as using the K-bar with a fist.
That some of them is possible. Yes, some of that is possible.
But he's saying that no, the reason that that's not possible is because of the trajectory of that's on the that I went over last night. I looked at Maddie's door again, and on Maddie's far wall that where her door was. To think that this was a crime that was committed with a door open, it's also pretty crazy, right? Upstairs. And but the trajectory that when you're swinging, whatever you're using to like apply this blunt force that's totally different than a knife. You need something that goes longer than what would be in your hand. I'd have to go a little further. So I'm thinking a golf club. And that's the first thing that they went and grabbed, when someone's in there. It just her interview is really interesting.
Part of the dialogue.
Yeah, I'm just saying, there are a number of explanations for that. There's horrific injuries. But I guess my point is, I am not convinced that we've heard the end of Brian Kohberger. I've been saying that for a while. I don't know if there's a habeas petition possibly in the works, depending on the outcome of the Dateline leak investigation. And we don't know really what's going on with that. But I'm just saying to you, I'm not sure. It just seemed all just a little bit too tidy. And I'm not sure anything in life is really ever that tidy.
I can only say thank you, because I've talked to so many people, and many of them were very, during the last week, talking in podcasts and things like this, I've talked to so many bright people that have been very involved in this case for 3.5 years. And I'm talking about attorneys. I'm talking about people retired from law enforcement. I've talked about podcasters who follow this, other journalists who follow it. You were the very first person that I've talked to that had meaningful representations of fact in the context of how criminal justice works. And I'm grateful for you bringing that sense and perspective. Ask questions. I'm not saying I have all the answers. I think it's critically important that we ask questions. And you're the first person I've spoken with that asked those intelligent questions. And I'm grateful.
There you go.
So do you know the answer?
I know the answer to a lot of these questions. I do. I listen.
Are you going to tell? So, okay, answer my question. Are we going to hear more? Is more coming?
No, okay, please, I'm not gonna curse in your show, but my emotion would shine through and insert anything before yes, right? Insert an adjective before yes. I believe, based on what I know,
basically saying fuck yeah
about other people that are working on other angles of this case, right? And one might speculate who those people are. There are a lot of experts, and there was a lot of outrage. There was a lot of outrage in this case by people who worked really hard trying to find answers, who believed passionately in his defense or believed in the veracity of the prosecution's use of the evidence as it was gathered. And many of those people came to me. I didn't get all this from one person. I got it from different people that I respected, that I verified,
it's for new,
and validated.
I mean, it can
and those
be.
people are not done. Those people are not done. This is a book that brings us up to this point in time. There's more.
Okay, so this is the thing, though. This is the only criticism I have of this. Chris wants people to go on and do all of these things, right? We can't go on and do all these things without the material. So we need the material. So where can I come to Missouri and get the material? You understand? Like, there's nothing that can be done without the material. So where can we get the material from? So if you're not going to be doing anything with it anymore and you're going on and doing other things, then where's an address where I can come meet you with a bunch of fucking hard drives and we can start downloading the shit and putting it onto a bunch of fucking hard drives. But without the material, so put it on a fucking Google file and start putting it out publicly. Take out the shit that's, I'm not talking about graphic stuff. I'm talking about the material that's needed, the information that's needed to work this case and removing Dylan and Bethany's statements. So we need the material because you're going to remove Bethany and you're going to remove Dylan. You're going to remove their statements. And you need to work the case without that. Otherwise, let me make something very fucking clear. This book, if that doesn't happen, I'll be the first person to come out and say that the book and your bullshit can go straight the fuck to hell, because you said that you want to do this and to get the ball rolling, get the material, here you go. You know, that's what has to happen. And the ball's in Chris's court. You understand that? The ball is in Chris's court. He came out here, he wrote the book, he's saying all this stuff. You have the material. And since you're done, all right. Well, I am publicly saying that I will come to Missouri. I will come to wherever and bring a bunch of shit so that all these files can be drug over. Otherwise, none of this fucking matters. Right? What's the point? If we keep putting FOIA requests in and they're getting denied, or they're being redacted to the point that they're taking out information that would lead to other things to be able to find, again, other people need help with cases. This is happening all over the country. It's been happening. It's going to continue to happen, right? So there's no dangling here. I'm coming to pick up the stuff. And then that way I can report on the fact that you wouldn't give it to me.
Coming. I'm the beginning. I'm not the end of this.
So there are people associated with Brian Kohberger's defense team who are still working to try to uncover what they believe was a miscarriage of justice. They don't believe he's guilty.
Correct. Yes.
Still working. There are people associated with Brian Kohberger's defense team who are still working to try to uncover what they believe was a miscarriage of justice. They don't believe he's guilty.
Correct. Yes.
There you go. That's probably why Ann Taylor's kind of pissed.
And so do you know if the lawyers are part of that?
I do not know that. That's another great question.
There you
go. I
go.
talked to you a long time ago, but
there you go. So there's people that are working this case that were involved in his case, not as a lawyer though, that are trying to say, hey, we can't let this happen. This is crazy. Okay. And he just said, well, I don't know what the lawyers are doing. Well, I feel like Ann Taylor feels like she was personally attacked, and that you're either trying to say that she's corrupt, okay, or ineffective. But basically what everyone's saying here is, how is Ann Taylor letting her client do a plea deal? Like, what the fuck have you done in this case? What have you been doing?
the answer is, I don't know. I have no idea what Ann Taylor and her legal staff are doing, planning,
I think
anticipate, whatever. I have zero insight into that.
Anthony needs to do criminal research. Your hands fucking down.
Anyway, I would only trust that Ann Taylor is a ward of Brian Kohberger's best interest, and she's looking at various options. But that's just my speculation based on the fact that she's a professional attorney.
Dr. Turvey had said, I haven't seen his report. I've only seen what you wrote in your book, and obviously the disclosure information that came out that was unsealed, that, you know, he was going to testify that there were at least two perpetrators.
Yes.
Based on your review of the evidence, do you believe that?
Yes.
Chris Whitcomb, the author of Broken Plea, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yep. And I bet you if you ask him, could one of those people be somebody that was living in that home? Yep. you know, there is also such a thing as called a double cross. So maybe one of the victims wasn't supposed to be a victim. At the end of the day, we removed Dylan and Bethany from the equation, okay, of what they had to say. Just, and then you go about this case, and because I think that it should be thrown. And so if you go ahead and you do something like that, and you look at that this case without what they have to say, and you look at that 253, 201, yeah, 253, 253. You are going to have a hard time, 253, getting me off of that 253 until we get into Kaylee's phone. It's just not happening. You guys, 2 phones were going, and then poof, stops. And then Dylan wants to tell us that Kaylee poof stops, Maddie poof stops, right? And then Kaylee just decides after an hour, or maybe she just decides at 3, I'm gonna go downstairs and have my own fucking party with myself in the living room with Murphy. Okay? Yeah. There's too many pictures. I have to see what those pictures are at 2:02 with Bethany taking a bunch of selfies on Kaylee's bed with Murphy. And what's interesting about that is is she trying just to occupy, like, is Murphy just being occupied while something else is happening? Where can you see other people at that 2:02 time frame when all those selfies are being taken with Murphy on the bed with Kaylee? And then because what's her name was, Dylan or Bethany's over here just here I have pictures. I was with Murphy at this time, and I was in, this case will always be like the Moore case for me with the white truck having nothing to do with shit, because I think everything has already happened in that case. It's the same thing with the white Elantra. That car means nothing if the crime was at 253. You understand? A white car coming in circling around from 3:30 to 4:20. It doesn't mean a damn thing if the crime was at 2:53, motherfuckers. And that's exactly what happened in the Moore Dr. Drake case. Jennifer Drake, when you try to extend somebody's life and make it seem like they're alive a lot longer than they are, okay, that's the other part of like staging. So, all right, guys, thank you so much. We have to, this was our debrief number 2. So I've spent a lot of time on it because this is Hitler stopped putting out the releases, okay, due to this leak investigation. You guys understand that? Due to the leak investigation, we've stopped getting any of the documents released until this leak investigation is handled. And I heard that there was movement in it. And so I'm hoping that maybe we'll know more stuff next week. But the reason that we stopped getting information is they were arguing back and forth that stuff shouldn't be unsealing and doing all that until the leak investigation is handled. So also think about that. Why would it matter? It all matters because stuff is going to be happening down the road. I told you Brian Colbert is making moves. I've been saying this. I will continue to say this. Fireworks are coming. They're going to continue to come. But I think a really big shocking one's going to come. This was just the tip. We haven't seen the grand finale yet, man. This is like literally just the tip. So, also thanks for all the people out there that sent me dollar PayPals and dollar Cash Apps. I am so thankful that you guys support this sexual deviant. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the next one. Mic drop.